3283-6160. Joining you here in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Riley.
And also, I believe Joa is on his way in. We'll see him here hopefully shortly, a.k.a. Breaking the Flaw. So we'll talk to him. In fact, you were at a court hearing this morning, Riley, which might be worthy of discussion. We'll get into that coming up. It wasn't for you.
I didn't go to court today.
Thankfully, you have not yet been charged here in New Hampshire for anything.
Nope, not yet. But who knows? Maybe that might change one day.
Well, the longer you hear, the more likely it becomes.
Well, that's what governments do. They like to charge people with crimes they allegedly committed.
Quote-unquote crimes with usually with no victim whatsoever. So we can talk about that. Plus, last night, I think Arya might have mentioned this headline, but apparently you guys didn't get into it.
No.
Which was that YouTube, surprise and shock, they're banning prominent so-called anti-vaccine activists and blocking all anti-vaccine content.
Now, of course, YouTube is a private company, so they can do that. However, that being said, the message is being given to us loud and clear. People who have differing opinions are not welcome on these types of platforms because they don't want to be guilty of quote-unquote misinformation. However, the idea of misinformation is dangerous because when you allow someone to claim what misinformation is, you allow for someone else to tell you what's appropriate and inappropriate speech.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And YouTube is a huge platform with I don't know how many billions or whatever videos that they've got, but obviously they're very well established. And as you pointed out, they can do what they want, and you can also do what you want by moving your business somewhere else.
That's right.
Taking your content to a more friendly place, like, for instance, Odyssey.
Right. I know Free Talk Live has moved to Odyssey. I've never tried Odyssey myself. I would like to, so hopefully I can figure out how to do that.
Right. For our listeners that may be new to the show, Riley, you happen to be a blind person, which is why.
I actually am blind, and so it's a different experience for me navigating the world than anyone else. So
indeed. We're always glad to have you here. You're visiting from your home in Utah, and you're also the guy that does the Free Talk Live Daily Digest. So for folks that subscribe to our podcast, you know what the digest is. It's that 20 or 30-minute long audio that comes in every single day, almost every day. I think you take like a week off at Christmas time, but otherwise...
I'm probably going to take some time off because I'm here on vacation that I can take a bit of a break and enjoy my time in New Hampshire. Understood.
And how does the air feel here? Like, obviously you can't look around and see the mountains or anything like that, but you're obviously in a place in Utah where there's probably some mountains around, right? Utah's a mountainous place.
Yep. I live in St. George, Utah area, and there are definitely mountains around us.
Can you tell is there a different feel in the air? Does it smell different? Does it feel different? Is the moisture different?
The moisture is different. Mm-hmm. It feels a lot more humid. It smells different. I love the smell of the forest. I wish I could take that smell home with me.
Yeah, you don't have that in Utah.
No, I don't. I mean, I could go to the mountains and go smell the pine trees, but that's about it.
So you do get some trees in Utah, just not so many?
Just not so many. They're mostly up in the mountains. And
is it basically like a desert?
Yeah, it is a desert. Mm-hmm. I know Utah is going through a drought right now, which is really
we
bad.
don't have that problem here.
Yeah, you don't have that problem, which is nice.
We have plenty of rain here, and it's generally pretty moist.
But I do want to say one thing about New Hampshire. I've really loved being here because there's a different energy about this place. And I know it's going to sound strange, but nature has its own energy.
Sure.
The desert has its own energy, and the forest has its own energy. It's just, I love it here. I love it. I feel at home here. I feel more grounded, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, and then there's the energy of the people, which is also, different. I mean, I've never been to Utah, and Bonnie, my girlfriend, she has spent some years. She lived on a military base down there, so she has some idea of Utah. But I do know what I hear about it, and I always hear, Mormons, and I always hear undue restrictions on various different liberties and ridiculous rules and things like that from the government there.
There definitely are ridiculous rules. I know that the Mormon Church, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, does have their lobbyists, and they are called home teachers on Capitol Hill because the LDS Church used to have this program called home teaching where the priesthood brothers would go around and check on, they have assigned families that they go check on and see how they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. And so the lobbyists were given the nickname home teachers because they're checking on how legislation is doing, and they want to make sure the church is accurately represented in Utah.
Yeah, they want their hands in as deep as they can be into that process.
Of course they do.
Which, of course, is true for the freedom lovers here in New Hampshire, and that's why we've had thousands of liberty-loving activists make the move here as part of either the Free State Project or just because they wanted to come here. You know, not everybody's a joiner, and so it's definitely brought a flavor to New Hampshire that I think New Hampshire already had to begin with, which is independence and leave me aloneism, and we're here to basically back those people up against the statists, the people that want to meddle in your life constantly, and boy do they hate us. In fact, I've got a story about that coming up here if we get the chance. But
well, I do want to mention one thing about that. When I was in court today, I was overhearing someone talking about those free staters.
Oh, really?
They're here to
someone behind you. Sorry, just to clarify, was it somebody like in the audience or somebody?
Yeah, someone in the audience. Mm-hmm. They were saying that all these people hate the government and think the government's out to get them. Well, these people calling themselves government have guns. And they're going to threaten you with these guns if you don't do what they tell you. You can't possess certain plants. You can't possess certain fungi. And if you park in the wrong spot for a long period of time, they're going to put litter on your vehicle.
Yeah, well, they actually are threatening people on a regular basis, and so we need more people like that, people that understand what government actually is, which is a criminal enterprise.
Oh, absolutely! It's the biggest criminal enterprise on the face of the planet, and the United States government is the biggest.
Yeah, and we need those people here, and there's so much to talk about here tonight. But what I wanted to point out though was YouTube has been banning anti-vaccine activists, so-called, and anti-vaccine content. So they've banned somebody named Joseph Mercola. I've heard the name, but I don't really know much about him. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, and this is according to the Washington Post, who, quote-unquote, experts say are partially responsible for helping seed the skepticism that's contributed to slowing vaccination rates across the country. And you know who else they banned? Ron Paul.
Dr. Ron Paul?
Earlier today. Now, apparently Ron Paul has more than one YouTube channel, so they have not banned both of them. I know of at least two. The one that they banned was called the Ron Paul Institute. And I found this out because I follow Ron Paul on social media, and either he or whoever's in charge of his account posted this message earlier today, quote, "Very shocked that YouTube has completely removed the channel of my Ron Paul Institute. No warning, no strikes, no evidence. The only explanation was, quote, severe or repeated violations of our community guidelines," unquote. He says the channel is rarely used, and the appeal that they put in was automatically rejected.
That's ridiculous. These quote-unquote community guidelines are ridiculous.
They really are.
Does anyone even read what the community guidelines of YouTube actually are?
No, only when you get banned.
Yeah.
Or only when you get a strike. Then it says, oh, here's why. And it's always some sort of obtuse, nebulous statement that never really identifies what video or when in that video was the offending portion and exactly what it was that was so offensive about it. And in this case, they're not even saying anything to Ron Paul. It's just and they actually got an image here of what the notice said from YouTube, and they cite spam, scams, or commercially deceptive content are not allowed on YouTube.
So what was he spamming, or
that's
what was
the thing?
Scamming?
They don't say. They don't identify what video it was that had the offensive content, or if it was more than one or whatever. So you get nothing on which to go on, and it's obvious they don't want him to come back,
right?
Because they didn't give him a strike. And normally with YouTube, like our channel, for instance, has received multiple strikes over time, and we usually will take a break from being on YouTube, and we'll let the strike sort of wash away after some number of days or weeks or months or whatever, and then we'll come back. And so we're currently there for now, and Ron Paul's other channel, the Ron Paul Liberty Report, which is his most active channel, is still there. So it's not really clear why they targeted this one channel that isn't as active as opposed to the one that is. But Ron Paul is a skeptic, absolutely, when it comes to the COVID vaccine.
Well, I'm a skeptic of the COVID vaccine too. But
Hold that thought, Riley. We're going to continue here in moments. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correa, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. Of course, you can bring up what you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Talking about the recent YouTube crackdown. They're not just handing out strikes or warnings anymore. They are straight up banning anyone they consider to be a so-called anti-vaccine activist. Now, I don't know what that exactly that means.
I don't either.
Like, you know, people that are on the pro-vaccine, everybody needs to get it side of things seem to consider you to be anti-vaccine if you're pro-choice.
Right, and that's the problem with the whole situation is I'm not anti-vaccine. I think people forget the nuance of the argument. They just do this whole dichotomous thinking or this
You're
black
either
and white.
with us or against us.
It's black and white thinking. It's harmful thinking, and there's not any nuance in that discussion. I am not anti-vaccine. I'm just anti any vaccine mandate. I don't think anyone has the right to tell me or you what you can put in your body.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And so again, I know there are people who are anti-vaccine, right? Like there are people who just believe that all vaccines are bad and they cause autism, and there's all kinds of theories.
Yeah,
out there.
I don't think personally. I don't think vaccines cause autism. I don't think there's enough evidence to support that claim.
I've never looked into it in any deep manner. Have you?
No. Well,
Okay.
I did a little bit of research from my college article databases, but couldn't find anything significantly convincing that vaccines caused autism. So I err on the side of I don't think they do.
Well, it is one of those things where correlation isn't necessarily causation.
Right.
But that said, there are some people that are very firmly against vaccines. So maybe they're only targeting anti-vax people, but I don't think so. If they're banning Ron Paul's channel, and who knows, maybe they're going to undo it and apologize, because sometimes they do that, right? Like I know Ron Paul actually tagged them in there, and I did just search for the Ron Paul Institute, and I did find a channel, but it only had like 3 videos on it. But I'd never seen the Ron Paul Institute channel prior to that, so maybe it only had 3 videos prior to that. But
who knows?
So every now and then you can sort of embarrass YouTube into undoing something that they've done, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be targeting people out there, and we have seen them targeting people and giving away these strikes and such, and our channel's been given strikes. Anyway, back to the story here from MSN.com. It's part of a set of new policies aimed at cutting down on so-called anti-vaccine content on the Google-owned site. YouTube will ban any videos that claim that commonly used vaccines approved by health authorities are ineffective or dangerous.
So who are these health authorities?
The government gang.
Well, here's the problem I have with the government gang being a health authority, is how do I know they have the ability to know what my health is?
They don't.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, is they don't know what my health is. They can advise me on what to do if there's a pandemic, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be my choice. I have to weigh the risks and decide, do I want to wear a mask? Do I want to get vaccinated? And chances are right now, the COVID-19 virus isn't as frightening as I'm being told it is. I'm not interacting with people all the time in my life either, because I tend to like being alone a little bit. I mean, I work from home and I don't interact with a lot of people, so I mitigate my risks that way. But at the same time, I still have the right to decide whether I want to wear a mask or not, and I'm going to.
Indeed. YouTube apparently is specifically targeting now anyone who is anti any vaccine. So they say here that they previously blocked videos that made claims that the coronavirus vaccines might be ineffective or dangerous. But now they're targeting any measles, chickenpox, anybody that's skeptical about vaccines across the board are now being targeted. They go on to say that the change marks a shift for the social media giant, which streams more than 1 billion hours worth of content every day. Like its peers Facebook and Twitter, the company has long resisted policing content too heavily, arguing maintaining an open platform is critical to free speech. Well, obviously that is out the window at this point. But as companies increasingly come under fire from regulators, lawmakers, and regular users for contributing to social ills, including vaccine skepticism, YouTube is again changing policies that it has held onto for months.
So why should YouTube be deciding what's good for society? How about society chooses what's good for itself?
Well, and the only way you can do that, Riley, is by having information and having differing information put in front of you, having one side and then another, and then maybe a third side or a fourth side,
or even 10 sides.
Having as many different opinions.
Then you make up your own mind, decide, well, I believe this because it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, and if there is one arbiter, in this case YouTube and whatever their, arbitrary decisions are of what should be considered by people, then that's a very scary perspective. It's a very scary thing to be doing, and they're just getting started. Because if they can do this for, vaccines, then what are some of the other things that are something that the government wants you to know or believe? That it seems like YouTube and these other companies are going to back up almost anything now that the government says this is the truth.
So I do want to say that if you are in favor of this move, don't be, because one day they will come for you and it will not be pretty.
You.
Absolutely. Never give your political friends the power you want your political enemies to have or abuse.
Yeah, and the really one of the disturbing parts about this is that now these mega big tech corporations are deciding that only the government perspective is the truth.
Right, and
that
governments are going to
else
change their story every time the political winds change. So this is a bad idea.
Yeah, and that everything else is quote-unquote misinformation.
Yeah.
And that's very scary, especially given the history of governments, which is to say that they lie constantly all the time about every single thing that they ever talk about, whether it be Afghanistan or, medical safety or whatever it is. If their lips are, it's the old joke, right, about politicians. How do you know they're lying?
Their lips are moving.
Their lips are moving. And yet so many people believe this stuff.
I know.
And the really entertaining part is, of course, looking at what people on the left said a year ago when Trump was still in office.
We can't trust Trump. We can't trust the government. It's bad, bad, bad,
right.
bad.
They couldn't, no, specifically what they said. Obviously, they said they can't trust Trump.
Right.
But they also said they wouldn't take and did not trust the Trump vaccine. So these very same leftists who are now promoting and lining up for the vaccine, rolling up their sleeve for a third shot, eventually the fourth shot, and so on, and pimping it out on various different social media and being interviewed on television, all proud about it.
Oh yeah,
these are the very same people who exactly a year ago, or roughly a year ago, were saying they would never take a Trump-endorsed vaccine. Well, guess what? It's the exact same vaccine.
Well, Trump started the vaccine program, and here they are. Now that Biden is in power, they're singing the praises of the vaccine. They're saying,
it's just
this is so
mindless.
great. Get the vaccine. Well, those of us who have questions about the long-term effects of the vaccines, we are not being fairly represented in the media. We are not being fairly represented online. Our voices are squelched. We are tired of it.
You can join us here with your thoughts. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. So what do? You don't complain to YouTube. You don't appeal to YouTube.
You get off of YouTube. Yeah. You go somewhere else. You put your voice somewhere else, and you tell everyone where you are.
You start something else or help build something else, something that you agree with and something that's not going to get a stick up their butt and kick you out the door tomorrow.
Exactly.
All right, more coming up here. 603-283-6160. And we like Odyssey for that. We'll tell you a little bit more about that on the way here. Odyssey/library. More coming up. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Tense hours lie ahead in Washington, where President Biden is urging Democrats on Capitol Hill to unite and pass the two key planks of his domestic agenda. But the outlook remains uncertain. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, is promising a vote later today on the president's $1.2 trillion infrastructure proposal. But her own deputy says because of divisions among the president's fellow Democrats, it will not pass. At the White House, Press Secretary Jen Psaki indicated fevered work is underway trying to drag both the president's major spending bills over the finishing line.
We're working towards victory here and a win. If it doesn't pass, it's because it doesn't have enough votes. But that's what we're working towards now. That's what the president's been making phone calls about. That's what we have his schedule cleared for this afternoon. And I'm not going to make a prediction of what the outcome will look like several hours from now.
A government shutdown has been averted, but there is still no agreement on raising the debt limit. So the US could still default on its debts next month. In other news, calls are growing for the resignation of Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick in London after a former police officer was jailed for life without any possibility of parole for the kidnap, rape and murder of 33-year-old marketing executive Sarah Everard. The shock in the UK created by the crime has been compounded by fresh disclosures that murderer Wayne Couzens was reported 3 times for indecent exposure, and yet no action was taken against him. Diane Abbott is a lawmaker with Britain's opposition Labour Party.
That the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick needs to step down. We need to remember that technically the Metropolitan Police Commissioner is the highest ranking police officer in the UK. And faced with the facts, faced with this awful crime, she needs to step down to show that society takes these things seriously.
The government of Ethiopia has expelled 7 senior UN officials, accusing them of meddling in the country's internal affairs. The officials work in a variety of humanitarian roles, and the US is threatening sanctions. The father of Britney Spears has responded to his suspension from the conservatorship of his daughter. From FSN's bureau in New York, Sarah Walton reports.
A statement from Jamie Spears' attorney said he loved his daughter and that he had tried to do what was in her best interests. Britney was placed under the conservatorship by a court in 2008 following concern about her mental health. Mr. Spears said the agreement had helped revive her career and re-establish a relationship with her children. On Wednesday, a judge ruled that all of the singer's assets should be turned over to a court-appointed temporary conservator. Her attorney said the aim is to remove the agreement completely before her 40th birthday in December.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Is Free Talk Live. And of course, you can bring up anything you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Talking about Ron Paul having his channel, one of his channels. I guess he's got more than one. There was one called Ron Paul Institute, and that one was taken down by YouTube with no warnings, no strikes, just straight up banned from the platform. And I went to Ron Paul's Twitter here, which is how I learned about the ban in the first place, just to see if there were any updates. Because sometimes, again, you can embarrass YouTube into publicly embarrass them into saying, "Oh, well, whoops, how did that happen? We'll just restore the channel."
Was this today?
This was today.
Okay.
And so I just went to look for a quick update here, and he does say that their Ron Paul Liberty Report channel is still online, and that's the one that they use every day. There's a Ron Paul Liberty Report. It's basically a 5-day-a-week podcast. By the way, I recently added it to LRN.FM, so if you've been listening to the Liberty Radio Network during the day, you've been hearing Ron Paul, which is great to have him back on the air, and it's amazing that a guy in his 80s is still going so strong.
I know. He seems like an amazing man. I've never met him. I've heard about him. I've listened to a few of his videos, but I don't remember which ones. But he seems like an amazing fighter, an amazing man.
He's very sharp, even for his age.
For his age, absolutely. Sure. By the way, Joe is here from Breaking the Flaw. They didn't take you down today, did they?
I haven't checked. No.
Yeah. You are still on the YouTube platform, but I was going to say we should talk about Odyssey here because Breaking the Flaw is available on Odyssey, as is Free Talk Live. And you can go to video.freetalklive.com and get you right there to our channel, and then type in Breaking the Flaw in the search, and you'll find Joe's channel there. But you can go there, and I recommend you subscribe to us on the Odyssey platform because, well, look, our days are numbered on YouTube. I mean, that's just a fact. The only reason we aren't banned from YouTube right now is because when they struck us twice, we just went away for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then that gave it enough time to undo the strikes, because after some amount of weeks, they will undo them, and so we're back. But for how long, I have no idea. It could be another day, it could be another week, could be another month.
Whatever videos they pulled from you to give you that strike, it's still in library.
It's really sad that you have these platforms deciding what goes on them. I mean, I have a podcast I haven't done in a while, but I do have a podcast called Untitled Agenda, and I worry that Libsyn or some third-party provider might say, well, we don't like what you have to say about government. We're going to take you off our platform.
Well, Libsyn is a podcast host. We used to use them years ago. Actually, technically, we still have an account there because when we moved to SoundCloud, I just decided I'd keep paying Libsyn to keep years' worth of archives online because all the links are, I still want the links to work if somebody shared a link somewhere or whatever. So we still have a Libsyn account. Never had any issues with them, getting squirrely about content, but that doesn't mean that they won't all of a sudden, get some sort of political pressure put on them and then change their policies and decide, you're $20 a month. It's not worth it. We want to get rid of you.
Yeah, and that's the scary part about these platforms. I've got to find a way to make sure that my podcast is protected somehow.
I'm going to go ahead and suggest Library to you because even though we talk about it primarily as a video sharing platform, it's not that. Library is a protocol. And so somebody was making this point. Actually, I think it was Cyprian, formerly known as Vin Armani. He's a former co-host here on Free Talk Live. He changed his name. It's now Cyprian on Twitter. And he was pointing out that all these people jumping from platform to platform, this is not the solution. The solution is the protocol level.
Right.
The protocol is the technology that is the guts of the internet. So when you talk about HTTP, that thing that comes in front of every website address.
Or HTTPS.
Right. The P in there stands for protocol.
Yep.
And FTP, File Transfer Protocol. There's a bunch of these things on the internet that basically it's what makes the internet go without getting into any kind of, technical engineering aspects of these things. This is the guts of communication online. And so what Library is it's a media sharing protocol. And the most important thing you need to know about it is it's uncensorable. It is decentralized and blockchain based.
That's really nice. So for people who don't know, the blockchain is a decentralized ledger, meaning that there is no central control on this ledger. It's shared across a network of computers or servers or whatever.
Right. Now, Library isn't storing files on a blockchain, but it is still blockchain related as far as reserving names and...
The sharing is the key here because without people sharing the videos from Library, that builds the blockchain to it, right?
Well, what happens is I understand it, and we don't have an engineer for a Library in the studio with us, so we're doing our best. But my understanding is you do need people sharing the content, otherwise it's not very well sort of seeded. So anybody that's familiar with torrenting, for instance, knows that when you have a torrent, the torrent is just the file that points to sort of the information of to where to get the file. So when you download a torrent, you're not downloading the CD-ROM or you're not downloading the DVD or whatever it is that
you're pulling parts from a bunch of people.
Right. You're actually getting the file itself from people who have it. And so the more people that have it, the faster it comes in, the more you can download at once. And similarly, Library is kind of like, I remember the creator of Library, Jeremy Kaufman, describing it, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher what he said as I attempt to paraphrase it, but their sort of Library is doing for torrents, or basically Library solves the indexing problem for torrents, I think is what he said. So it's very similar technology in that the files aren't stored on the blockchain. Blockchain's involved in helping people find the files, which are stored on people's computers. And so if you're, for instance, if you have the Library full desktop app, which you can download from lbry.com, and you subscribe to Free Talk Live, if you don't actually click to watch one of our videos, you won't actually be helping us. You have to actually load this content, and then the Library app downloads it, and then you're part of the seeds that are helping share and helping keep those files online forever.
Right.
That's really cool. I mean, I think it's a cool idea to have the files online forever so that they cannot be deleted.
Correct. So you can help us with this. The easy thing to do is to just try the technology by going to Odyssey. And again, you can go to video.freetalklive.com, hit the subscribe button. You do need to sign up for an account. That's easy to do. And then you will be following us there on Odyssey. Now, Odyssey is the platform that somebody built on top of the protocol. So remember, we were talking about the difference between platform and protocol. The protocol is the underlying technology. The platform is the website that somebody might build to help you interact with the protocol. And so Odyssey is a platform that uses the library.
Right. So there could be multiple
protocol.
Platforms for the library.
Yeah, anyone who's got the skills, the programming skills, could build their own platform interfacing with library. So for instance, we've pointed out before that Odyssey isn't it's not completely uncensorable, because Odyssey has certain rules. Odyssey says, hey, if you're going to make pornography, we just don't want that here.
Right.
And there's a couple of other things, like, you can't have, torture videos or something. Like, there's something else that, there's a few other things that they don't want on their platform.
Could someone make I don't know how to describe this, but something on the library protocol that allows for pornography?
A library already allows for anything. And that's the point I wanted
They just don't encourage it.
Well, they don't care.
Right.
I mean, library has no discouraging or encouraging. Library is just the protocol. And so you can upload whatever you want to library. Yeah. And there's no one who can say you can't.
Like I was thinking during the OnlyFans, I call it the OnlyBans.
Yeah.
But they, when they're trying to kick all their
then reverse
producers,
yeah.
They could have easily just gone over to the library, dressed up as librarians. That
would be awesome.
Put Hush Coin in there.
Yeah, and you can donate to people through not just through library, but on the Odyssey platform. Of course, you can't do porn there, but Odyssey actually allows for dollars to be sent now, U.S. dollars via credit cards and debit
any
cards.
other producers out there, like Ian and I and a few others. I don't know if Riley, do you post on there?
I don't post on Odyssey or
Not yet.
library.
Not yet.
You can connect your YouTube to the library, sync it, and you don't have to do anything. Just remember that anything you produce is going to be on the library after that.
The point I wanted to make, though, Riley, is that you can actually upload audio to library, because it's just a media protocol. It doesn't care if you're uploading an MP3 file or a video file. There's more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Never, ever send a follow-up email asking, "Did you get my email?" Email 101. If it didn't bounce back undeliverable, it got where you sent it. And avoid transmedia pestering, like calling to ask, did you get my email? Or emailing to say, I left you a voicemail. If your emails and voicemails aren't being acknowledged, your problem isn't technology, it's technique. Is your message concise and understandable? Have you boiled it down to seem as relevant as possible to the recipient? In other words, is it the opposite of spam or junk mail? All of this really matters if you're a job seeker. But even if you're not, with money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and the number if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. By the way, I want to say thanks to John Rolstead and Farmer Garrick. They are Silver Amplifiers. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. You can go to amp.freetalklive.com, but unless you are going to use PayPal, unfortunately the credit card and debit card, it's not working right now, and we're looking at other options for that at the moment. It has something to do with the fact that my bank account cut me off.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah, that doesn't help, right?
Yeah, and we've been trying for months to rectify the situation, and the banking system just is not easy to deal with.
It's really not, and that's why everyone needs to get unbanked and get into crypto as much as possible.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with you there. So yeah, that's part of what we're talking about here is the alternatives to these centralized big tech platforms, because Ron Paul just got one of his channels taken down, and according to the Ron Paul account on Twitter, not only did they terminate the Ron Paul Institute account with no notice, no warnings, no strikes, just boom, gone. They left his other channel, which is actually the more popular channel, which is his current show that he's doing every day, the Ron Paul Liberty Report. That's still online for now, but as an updated post reveals from just 4 hours ago, the YouTube channel, or his YouTube channel that was still left online, Liberty Report, they removed the episode with guest Robert Kennedy Jr., one of their most popular episodes. Now, they're saying this Robert Kennedy guy, I guess he's anti-vaccine.
Yes.
And so because that guy was interviewed by Ron Paul, they pulled that video down from Ron Paul's channel.
And this might have been videos from years ago because he's been speaking out about vaccines for a long time.
Well, YouTube went in and pulled one of our videos down earlier this year that was 10 years old.
Wow.
It was a 30-second promo.
Oh, my goodness. That's crazy.
There's virtually no content in a 30-second promo.
Yeah, that's very true. They just pull things down like it's no big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it was literally like clip, 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 clip. You know, some guy getting arrested, a quick scan of a website. You know, like there's virtually nothing in there as far as content was concerned, but somebody said it violated their policies, and boom, it's gone.
They must have turned on some algorithm that just hit all these back videos.
Maybe. So you can, of course, still see that video on Odyssey. And in fact, Ron Paul points out that his video is also available on Odyssey. So if you want to check out the Robert Kennedy Jr. episode of Ron Paul, you can go to the Ron Paul channel. It's apparently at Ron Paul on Odyssey.
Yeah, I just actually looked it up to see if it was still going, and he's doing pretty well.
What his channel is?
Well, actually has 0 uploads on that one.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's see.
But he has 22,000 followers, so
that's
he's doing
amazing.
Pretty good.
That's amazing. I think we're up to like
the videos
1,000 or something like that. Barely, not even 1,000. So good for Ron Paul. I'm gonna have to hit the subscribe button, the follow button on that one. Gotta love Ron Paul. All right, let's go to your phone calls here. We got Bad Slave on the line, and he's calling from New Hampshire. Go ahead, Bad Slave.
Well, getting back to the virus thing, it occurs to me that the powers that be and the media and even Hollywood and definitely governmental stuff, I think that the Republicans are slightly less vehement about this stuff than the Democrats.
That's only because they're not in power.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I felt that way before when they were in power.
Okay.
But,
are you talking about federally?
also-
Because federally, the Republicans dramatically increase the size of government whenever they're in power.
Oh, like every other politician.
Every administration does that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but still, what's going on is there is a complete suppression of all of these what appear to be very effective therapies that don't involve vaccination, and it's like, why are we suppressing the use of some of these have been around forever.
Well, it seems pretty obvious to me. I mean, they're suppressing it because they want to funnel more money into these pharmaceutical companies' pockets.
So the thing to remember is that Pfizer.
That's a death sentence.
It is,
for so many people.
And Pfizer and Moderna are getting rich off this pandemic. They're getting rich off the fear. And people on the left who say, oh, we got to eat the rich. Well, what about Pfizer and Moderna? They are getting absolutely wealthy off of this pandemic, which is really sad.
Thank you, Bad Slave, for the call tonight. Appreciate it. The number is 603-283-6160.
I was informed by High Impact Flicks. Like this is a guy that does videos on YouTube, and he also is on Odyssey. He's been promoting a lot, so I just want to shout out him. But he just released a video about the Veritas investigation.
Yeah, we've been talking about those on the air.
And I guess we have a whistleblower, a nurse that went to Veritas and exposed what the procedures are if they think they have COVID, and they basically put them on ventilator and kill them. Ventilator.
Well, maybe for some cases that might be helpful, but not in all cases. And I think people need to look at this idea, well, we don't need a one-size-fits-all protocol for a virus.
No, and you shouldn't, because, and you touched on this earlier tonight, Riley, people are different.
Oh, absolutely.
Different
I'm different
diets.
than Ian.
Yeah, I mean, we all are people, and fundamentally we're the same, but, at a lower level, there's some serious differences between people. Look at how some diets work for some people, and they don't work for other people. Right? So, obviously, one size does not fit all when it comes to your health.
And it shouldn't either, just on the fact that you make your own personal choices about your body, and that no one has the right to force anything into you. Or
speaking of people that want to force things into you, Fauci, according to thepostmillennial.com, and I guess they are citing an exclusive interview with The Atlantic, Dr. Anthony Fauci is now saying that you will not be a fully dosed person unless you get a booster shot. According to the interview, he says, quote, it's likely for a real complete regimen, you'll need at least a third dose. He said further later, quote, I think we should be preventing people from getting sick from COVID, even if they don't wind up in the hospital. He says he rejects skeptics' notions and insisted it's beneficial to have temporary protection than no protection, despite the fact the mRNA COVID vaccine was allegedly designed to prevent the virus, even though it certainly hasn't done that at all.
It doesn't prevent getting sick from COVID, and you're going to get sick from COVID and spread it to everyone else.
And there was another one here. He said, it's highly likely individuals won't be considered fully vaccinated. I know this isn't a quote. This is just a summary, apparently, of what he said, that it's highly likely individuals won't be considered fully vaccinated unless they get booster shots. And that's plural.
So,
because if you get a third one, you know they're going for a fourth one.
It's never going to stop.
I'm going to guess not. It's not going to stop. I mean, you're going to have to get a booster every 8 months or 6 months or whatever the schedule is. And I know people get flu shots every year, and I know that's normal.
I've never done it.
I haven't either, only because I don't think the flu is that much of a risk for me.
Right.
But that being said, if I thought it was, I probably would get the flu shot every year.
I have more of a risk of dying by government.
Absolutely.
Than this
Yeah, you're
virus.
going to die more of you'll die faster by government than anything
You're much more likely to die in a car accident.
Yeah, you are.
You know?
Oh, but that was all, approved by the government, safety
Right.
restrictions.
Who
and
is
all
the
that.
government?
Well, you got a government license, so it's totally fine to go
Yeah.
and careen around in a 2,000-pound death trap.
Right.
You know?
They'll give you a formal.
Every day.
It'll be a formal funeral if you wear your seatbelt.
The number, if you want to join us here, 603-283-6160. So anyway, I mean, this is not a surprise for Fauci to be coming out and saying this. And remember, they're telegraphing what's coming, right? They throw these little things out there just to see what happens, where, okay, what kind of reaction are we going to get? All right, well, it's getting colder. Flu season is about to be upon us. And so people are going to start getting sicker than they've been during the summertime. And we've seen what's been happening over there in Australia and in New Zealand. Oh, and by the way, there's a video that I saw today. It was Jody Emery that posted this from Hard Hat Intellect or the Hard Hat Intellectual. Video of at least 6 cops interacting and then arresting a man and taking him to the ground. A man for walking his dog in the park.
Really? That's all?
Yeah.
Walking his dog in the park?
Without a mask on.
Wow.
That's normal activity. 2 years ago, that would have been normal activity. Now it's not.
Now
It's
it is a criminal act, according to the people in Australia. And anybody that believes this can't happen here, you're not been paying attention.
Oh, it will happen here. Mark my words.
That's
you
the
better
scary
stand
part.
up now. If you're on the left and love this story, you better stand up now, because one day it's going to come for you.
Yeah, it's they say you can't be outside. Like the doctor doesn't prescribe sunlight now. And that's more important than wearing these masks.
That's one of the things Ron Paul said originally was get outside, get fresh air, get sunlight. More coming up here. 603-283-6160. You can join us on the radio. This is Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Tense hours lie ahead in Washington, where President Biden is urging Democrats on Capitol Hill to unite and pass the two key planks of his domestic agenda. But the outlook remains uncertain. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, is promising a vote later today on the president's $1.2 trillion infrastructure proposal. But her own deputy says because of divisions among the president's fellow Democrats, it will not pass. At the White House, Press Secretary Jen Psaki indicated fevered work is underway trying to drag both the president's major spending bills over the finishing line.
We're working towards victory here and a win. If it doesn't pass, it's because it doesn't have enough votes. But that's what we're working towards now. That's what the president's been making phone calls about. That's what we have his schedule cleared for this afternoon. And I'm not going to make a prediction of what the outcome will look like several hours from now.
A government shutdown has been averted, but there is still no agreement on raising the debt limit. So the US could still default on its debts next month. In other news, calls are growing for the resignation of Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick in London after a former police officer was jailed for life without any possibility of parole for the kidnap, rape and murder of 33-year-old marketing executive Sarah Everard. The shock in the UK created by the crime has been compounded by fresh disclosures that murderer Wayne Couzens was reported 3 times for indecent exposure, and yet no action was taken against him. Diane Abbott is a lawmaker with Britain's opposition Labour Party.
That the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick needs to step down. We need to remember that technically the Metropolitan Police Commissioner is the highest ranking police officer in the UK. And faced with the facts, faced with this awful crime, she needs to step down to show that society takes these things seriously.
The government of Ethiopia has expelled 7 senior UN officials, accusing them of meddling in the country's internal affairs. The officials work in a variety of humanitarian roles, and the US is threatening sanctions. The father of Britney Spears has responded to his suspension from the conservatorship of his daughter. From FSN's bureau in New York, Sarah Walton reports.
A statement from Jamie Spears' attorney said he loved his daughter and that he had tried to do what was in her best interests. Britney was placed under the conservatorship by a court in 2008 following concern about her mental health. Mr. Spears said the agreement had helped revive her career and re-establish a relationship with her children. On Wednesday, a judge ruled that all of the singer's assets should be turned over to a court-appointed temporary conservator. Her attorney said the aim is to remove the agreement completely before her 40th birthday in December.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at an announcement the head of Rolls-Royce called the most significant day in the company's history. The iconic British car manufacturer is now testing its first fully electric model. The car, called Spectre, what else, will be the first super luxury product of its type. Rolls-Royce CEO Thorsten Müller-Ottfosch.
I would say after this company was founded in 1904, it went from success to success. But today is a very important, remarkable day because the brand goes electric. And we are announcing the first electric Rolls-Royce in history. And we name this car Rolls-Royce Spectre. And the car will be in clients' hands in the fourth quarter 2023. So testing begins shortly. And I think it's also important to understand that the brand is fully committed to our long-term goals, and by 2030 the brand is fully electrified.
The timing is important given that the sale of new petrol and diesel-fuelled cars will be banned in Britain starting in the year 2035. Rolls-Royce says it will stop making its famous V12 cars by the year 2030, and the all-electric Spectre will undergo 1.5 million miles of road testing before it's made available to consumers. The main news again, tense hours lie ahead in Washington, where President Biden is urging Democrats in Congress to unite and pass the two key planks of his domestic agenda. Calls are growing for the resignation of the Metropolitan Police Commissioner after a former officer received a whole life sentence for murdering marketing executive Sarah Everard. And the government of Ethiopia has expelled 7 UN officials, accusing them of meddling in the country's internal affairs. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Good morning. Later this afternoon, I will be engaging in an extramarital affair. Of course, I will wish that I had never made the horrible mistake I'm about to spend several hours making, but sadly, I'm currently too blinded by greed and lust to care about or consider the consequences of my actions. The liaison I will be taking part in shortly with two poor deaf teenage runaways is in direct opposition to the values you elected me to uphold. I also wish to apologize to my wife, Linda, to my two beautiful children, Allison and Christopher. It hurts me more than you will ever know that this scandal will impact your life so terribly. I can only pray that the revelations you will soon hear concerning my fetishes, physical flexibility, and penis will not scar you to the point of dementia. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get to the hotel immediately, so I will not be taking questions. Thank you.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, hour number 2. We're kicking it off right here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Joa,
and Riley.
Of course, you can bring up whatever you want. That is the point here of the program. Coming up, we'll tell you about how activists in New Hampshire shut down a recent attempted meeting of the governor and his, what they call the executive council.
Oh, really? This is awesome. I love it when people shut down government meetings.
Yeah, they canceled this meeting saying that they were afraid for their lives.
Well, the government people make us afraid for our lives all the time. It's about we turn the tables.
Yeah, now they know how it feels.
Yeah, but they were selfishly breathing free without masks. I can see how that's...
We'll tell you all about it here in just a moment. Plus, coming up, of course, your calls and thoughts. Also, Riley, your story that you shared with me tonight about California is looking to ban generators and maybe even lawn equipment that's powered by gas.
Yeah, it's really silly.
So that's all on the way here, and the number is 603-283-6160. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts, though. We got Corey on the line listening to us in Utah via Twitch.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Corey.
Corey, it's good to hear a friendly voice.
What's on your mind?
Good to see you on Twitch, Riley. Yeah, I have just been noticing, obviously we're in a time of great inflation right now, with the U.S. dollar becoming more and more less valuable.
Oh, yeah. Did you hear that Dollar Tree's going to start raising their prices above $1 now?
I guess it's not going to be Dollar Tree anymore.
Oh, man, I didn't even hear that. My wife is like the biggest Dollar Tree fanatic there is, too.
Yep.
So. But I was thinking about this, and it's going to be an interesting time because for the business world within the United States, the major trillion-dollar companies up at the top, the Amazons, the Apples, and the Microsofts, are going to be in an acquisition and monopolization spree coming up here in the next couple years because they have all the sets for cash laying around, and they're going to be trying to buy up all of their major competitors and companies.
Consolidation.
I'm just thinking we're going to be in an area where major consolidation is going to be coming, even more so than we've already had. That monopolization is going to become
This is a good reason to get into crypto at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
And also setting up other systems that are outside of Google, Microsoft, IBM. Find our own way. That way we don't have to depend on them. It's kind of like, getting a taste of that sweet pie and you just want to keep going back at it. But really, that thing is going to make you fat. It's going to make you lazy.
Yeah, there's some serious warnings on the horizon economically. I mean, if people aren't paying attention, it's going to whack you in the face real soon,
yes,
I think.
It will. It's going to whack you in the face, and it's going to whack you really hard.
Or they can just shut you down. Just like with a flick of switch, you're no longer part of their system. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
Did you diversify? Right? Get your gold, get your silver?
I have some gold back, so I don't know if that counts as gold, but,
That definitely counts as gold.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Corey, what else do you think? What do you want to share?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. It's just I've been noticing companies have just been announcing left and right being acquired by these big tech companies, like in the last few weeks. It's kind of concerning. Just kind of keep your eyes on that. I think and obviously with the pandemic, even also just increasing the major top of the market's prices. It's just kind of getting pretty concerning that there's not going to be any competition within the market, and people want to call this country a free market, but it's been manipulated.
It's not.
Yeah, it's never been a free market in my lifetime.
Through all these different things, it's more consolidated than I've ever seen it, and I don't think you'll ever see it. And I think it's just going to get worse now. I thought it was bad already 5 years ago, but it's even worse now, and it's even worse than I've ever seen it.
Can you give a couple? You said you've been paying attention. You've seen some examples. Can you give a couple examples of companies that have been gobbled up in recent months or weeks that you've noticed?
I'd throw Microsoft has been buying some major companies. I think one off the top of my head, Bethesda video game company was bought by Microsoft.
Oh,
that
wow.
was a huge one.
Yeah, Bethesda already was a big video game company. It's like they were already one of the biggest, and now they've been gobbled up by something even bigger. Interesting.
Yeah, and there's just a whole bunch of smaller companies that are doing smaller things that are just getting bought up by all these companies right now.
It's easy to take that check, right?
Oh yeah,
as a small company.
Yeah,
I mean, you're a small company, you're taking the check, but it just is going to keep consolidating the power. I work in financial tech right now. I work for a small financial tech company. I used to work for one of the biggest ones in SoFi. But Apple is and Google and Microsoft are all going to be entering that same space, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them make a huge purchase of some of these major financial tech companies like SoFi or Varo or these major financial tech banking companies. It's going to be, I think they're going to be, those top companies are going to start really reaching out into areas they haven't. Apple's kind of dipped their toe in that area with the Apple Card, but I think
I remember Google a couple of years ago was talking about offering banking services. Now they were teaming up with some bank in order to do that, but they were interested in offering like checking accounts.
It's like Google Pay, right?
Well, they already have Google Pay, right? So
Right.
they did already dip their feet into that, but they were actually talking about offering checking accounts to their users and stuff like that. So yeah, I think you're right about this, Corey. It's an interesting observation, and I know that the history is if you see industries consolidating, things do get worse, as you pointed out. You don't have as much competition, so you don't have as many products in the marketplace. You don't have as much innovation, and that just means a worse experience for the consumer.
I was going to say, like, innovation-wise, these big tech companies buy out products that are better than theirs and just shut it down.
They do that,
and then they just continue to do their own projects, so that way there's no competition.
Thanks, Corey, for the call tonight, man. Definitely appreciate hearing from you. It's a great point.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I think, something that we've been seeing just generally. I mean, we saw it in the radio industry back in the 1990s when the government, quote-unquote, deregulated. Well, that didn't mean they got rid of the FCC. What it meant was they allowed companies to buy more radio stations than they were previously allowed to buy. And so there was a huge round of consolidation where companies like what became Clear Channel, now known as iHeartMedia, were buying up mom and pop stations left and right. And same thing, mom and pop are like, we'll take the check to get out of, we'll go do something else.
It's really sad that mom and pop stations are no longer available because they provide a lot of local coverage that is needed in the world.
They do, and what's interesting, though, is what we've seen sort of the fallout. We've had enough time to see the fallout from the consolidation in radio, and what happened was these mega corporations, iHeartMedia, again, formerly known as Clear Channel, and Cumulus, the two biggest players in radio, they got too big for their britches.
Yeah.
They weren't able to handle the debt load that they took on. They went bankrupt, and they came out of bankruptcy, right? So, like, they haven't been dissolved, but they're a fraction, they're a shadow of the companies that they once were. They've been forced to, in a lot of cases, sell some of their stations. So actually what we've seen in recent years is some mom and pops are getting back into radio. They're coming in and snapping up these stations from these mega companies that have to sell them essentially to pay their debts, and they're getting them at a fraction of the rates because a radio station just is not worth what it was worth in the 1990s, back when they had no internet competition, back when there was no satellite radio. Now there's a lot of competition for radio, and the prices of a radio station. You're lucky. You're basically paying the real estate prices. They're throwing in the radio license for free.
That's actually a good thing when local radio is coming back.
I think it's important, though, an emergency factor. It's like you can broadcast out something that's going on and everyone can hear it.
If it's not too late, too little, too late.
Yeah, and you can do it like on a smaller radio scale too, just to hit like your local neighborhood. But at least it's not like on this grid, this internet of things that's being controlled by the governments.
That's true. Speaking of that, we were talking about these big tech companies. Did you guys hear about Amazon, their latest robot? They've actually got an actual robot. So it used to be like the little doodad that you'd sit in a room somewhere. Now it can follow you around.
Oh, wow.
That's creepy.
Yeah. There's
With
more
cameras on it.
Yep. So you better believe it. 603-283-6160. You can join us here on Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Free Talk Live.
The heavy-handed language that you're speaking out against the government is, I never heard anything like this on the radio.
When the founding fathers decided that the government of England was no longer servicing their needs, they stopped paying their taxes first.
Don't you drive on the roads? Aren't you glad you're defended from the foreigners?
Sir, they stole this man's property. The foreigners are coming to get me.
Yeah, they stole these. These aren't foreigners I need to be defended from. It's these people down the street calling themselves government that are willing to steal my property from me and burn my house to the ground, which is what they did to this man.
It's not yours. The government owns it.
Really? Are you telling me, sir, that every one of us are actually serfs? We're actually subjects and slaves to the state? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, if it sounds good to you...
No, that doesn't sound good. I don't accept it. I'm a free man.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. Of course, you're welcome to join us here. The number, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I just, by the way, posted the video that we mentioned. I didn't play it on the air. I've just seen so many cop takedowns, so many violent police videos. It's just tiresome sometimes. And they're coming out of Australia every single day.
I'm
really
surprised
sad.
it's still coming out. But.
It's really sad that Australia has become a police state. I hope it doesn't happen here, but I guarantee you it will happen here.
Well, I mean, it's already happened here. It's just gotten so much worse. I mean, we are living in a police state, and we have been living in a police state for a very long time.
Oh, yeah, we've been living in a police state since 9/11. It's just people forgot about it. They got too used to the police state.
Yeah, they're throwing it up in your face right now. What were you saying, Joe?
No. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, it's okay. So this video, I did post it on our social media, which you can follow us over on the Free Talk Live Mastodon. It is our own social media website. It's not run by big tech.
I'm on the
it.
website.
We run the server. You post what you want there. Somebody asked me, they found me on Twitter and they said, hey, I just got banned from a Mastodon server. And because Mastodon is not centrally controlled by like a big tech corporation, but each server can set their own rules. And I don't know if it was a he or a she. I have no idea.
Interesting.
But the person said they got banned for not safe for work content, and they're looking for a place where they can post pornography. And I was like, I don't care. Put whatever you want on social.freetalklive.com. I mean, as long as it's not illegal.
Porn, social.freetalklive.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever. Go for it. It's a website that we actually are in charge of, and as of so far, there's been no reason to ban anybody except spammers. I do ban the spammers when they sign up, and I notice some obvious spam account. Okay, I'm gonna knock that out.
Yeah, please send news.
Nudes? Or
no,
nudes?
news.
Okay.
Nice try, Ian.
Nice try, man.
So, of course, you can bring up anything you want. Again, check out social.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us there. In fact, when you sign up, you'll automatically follow some of the hosts of the show. And if you don't like that, well, you can just undo it. It's no problem. So, since I mentioned the Amazon robot, let me tell you a little bit about it here, because there's just so much news to cover. Amazon has introduced what they're calling Astro during their fall product event this week. And this story coming from CNBC.com. It is equipped with a rotating screen mounted onto a base with wheels. Amazon designed the robot to appear animated and friendly with eyes and expressive body movements.
That makes it all better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it makes it so much better.
That respond to user interaction. The robot can move on its own from room to room and is capable of navigating around objects on the floor or braking to avoid colliding with obstacles such as a pet that moves into its path. A periscope camera attached to the base of the device can be raised or lowered to view objects that are high up. The man here, I guess this is, let's see who this is. Somebody named Limp. I presume that is their Amazon's person. Quote, I've had this robot in my home for about a year, and it does wonderful things. It's equipped with, of course, Amazon's Alexa voice assistant. It can set and deliver reminders, serve up entertainment such as TV shows or podcasts, and control smart home devices, among other tasks. So it's basically a motorized Alexa is what it sounds like. Because, I mean, I've never had one of these things, but as I understand it, it can do all of those things for you, right?
I've never had one of these things either, but I don't know if I even want one.
The robot responds to commands, so if users say Astro Beatbox, the robot will make musical noises. It also has security and safety features through an integration with Amazon's smart home security subsidiary, Ring. You know, that company that was giving away information to law enforcement or teaming up with law enforcement?
That company?
Yeah, giving them like like giving them access to Ring video feeds, because Ring, as I understand it, is primarily a device.
It's a network.
It's like a front door doorbell thing, but it's got a camera in it.
It's networked.
Yeah.
You have it very vulnerably open to anybody. Like anyone can like tap into it fairly easy. I mean, they're putting in securities and stuff like that, but it's still on the web. And this is too, I guess, right?
It's absolutely. I mean, it's a mix of all of Amazon's home products thrown together.
Scary.
So they put Ring in with the Amazon Alexa. It says it is capable of autonomously patrolling a user's home while they're away. It can flag potential intruders and listen for things such as broken glass or smoke alarms via a feature called Alexa Guard. For those worried about privacy, Amazon said Astro's camera, microphone, and motion sensors can be switched off just by pressing a button.
Oh, yeah, right.
You believe that, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, but at the same time, I don't know if Amazon can switch it back on again.
Of course. Why wouldn't they be able to? And it's just like with your phone. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can press a quote-unquote button in the software that says I'm turning off GPS.
Right.
But am I really turning off GPS?
No.
Or is it just showing me that GPS is turned off and, not allowing me to access the features of GPS? Because you damn well know if the government gang wants to get access to that information, it's going to be available for them.
Of course, and these companies will bend over backwards or forwards for the government.
Absolutely.
I really want to try this phone, the Pine phone. It's got physical switches.
No kidding.
That turns off the camera, turns off the mic, and then the Wi-Fi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, is this available, or is this one of these things that's in development hell? And
no, you can purchase them right now.
Okay, what do they cost?
Between $200 and I think $300. The newer one's a little bit more.
Do you know anyone who has one?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I've been looking at these types of phones.
Is it Android? What is it running?
It runs, I believe, a Linux software.
Okay.
Yeah.
Android is Linux based, but so I presume that it's
not Android. I know that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Pine phone?
Pine phone, yeah. No,
it's cheaper than the Amazon Astro. You're going to drop $1,000 for Amazon's little spy bot that they want motoring around your home and watching literally everything you do. It used to be that you just had their device in one room. Now it can go anywhere, so that's happening. Also, as I mentioned, we had the gentleman who called in from Utah who brought up inflation, and I said, hey, man, have you heard about the Dollar Tree? It's in the news. According to the Wall Street Journal, you can't sell things for $1 anymore, or at least not everything. It's no longer everything's $1. The buck has stopped at Dollar Tree Incorporated. The retailer, which sells nearly everything for $1 in its namesake chain, plans to add more products at slightly higher prices, highlighting the pressure on companies to offset cost increases for a range of goods.
So I do want to address this because some people might hear us talk about this coming financial meltdown and be like, you guys are just spreading fear. I don't want to spread fear. I want to make you aware that this is coming. I want you to be prepared. I want you to have gold. I want you to have crypto. I want you to be prepared. Have something because this financial meltdown is coming.
It's not coming. It's here. I mean, we're in the midst of it. It's one of those things where you don't really know something's happening until you look back, and then hindsight's 20/20. It's like, yeah. Well, you can see that this is happening because of things like this, where you can't sell everything for $1 anymore. We've talked about how shrink happens in products. Yeah. Like, for instance, go to the grocery store and try to find a 64-ounce jug of orange juice. One of those straight up, not cylindrical, but the rectangular kind of containers of orange juice. They're not 64 ounces anymore. They're like 52, 55, 58.
They're shrinking it.
Yeah, they
adjusting
shrink it.
Prices.
They shrink. Well, that's how they avoid adjusting the price, is they shrink the product.
Yeah, they got to make sure they keep the product at the right size so they can keep the price.
But once you shrink the product so much, you can't shrink it anymore. Yeah. You have to raise prices.
Oh,
yes, yeah.
And Dollar Tree is already at the bottom of the barrel as far as price is concerned.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, I guess we have to raise prices. So now it's going to be like $1.50 tree. More coming up.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. if you'd like to see
real prosperity.
Start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join if you like Bitcoin.
Its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate.
If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great.
Homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate.
Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate.
Go to
intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Tense hours lie ahead in Washington, where President Biden is urging Democrats on Capitol Hill to unite and pass the two key planks of his domestic agenda. But the outlook remains uncertain. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, is promising a vote later today on the president's $1.2 trillion infrastructure proposal. But her own deputy says because of divisions among the president's fellow Democrats, it will not pass. At the White House, Press Secretary Jen Psaki indicated fevered work is underway, trying to drag both the president's major spending bills over the finishing line.
We're working towards victory here and a win. If it doesn't pass, it's because it doesn't have enough votes. But that's what we're working towards now. That's what the president's been making phone calls about. That's what we have his schedule cleared for this afternoon. And I'm not going to make a prediction of what the outcome will look like several hours from now.
A government shutdown has been averted, but there is still no agreement on raising the debt limit. So the US could still default on its debts next month. In other news, calls are growing for the resignation of Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick in London after a former police officer was jailed for life without any possibility of parole for the kidnap, rape and murder of 33-year-old marketing executive Sarah Everard. The shock in the UK created by the crime has been compounded by fresh disclosures that murderer Wayne Couzens was reported 3 times for indecent exposure, and yet no action was taken against him. Diane Abbott is a lawmaker with Britain's opposition Labour Party.
That the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick needs to step down. We need to remember that technically the Metropolitan Police Commissioner is the highest ranking police officer in the UK. And faced with the facts, faced with this awful crime, she needs to step down to show that society takes these things seriously.
The government of Ethiopia has expelled 7 senior UN officials, accusing them of meddling in the country's internal affairs. The officials work in a variety of humanitarian roles, and the US is threatening sanctions. The father of Britney Spears has responded to his suspension from the conservatorship of his daughter. From FSN's bureau in New York, Sarah Walton reports.
A statement from Jamie Spears' attorney said he loved his daughter and that he had tried to do what was in her best interests. Britney was placed under the conservatorship by a court in 2008 following concern about her mental health. Mr. Spears said the agreement had helped revive her career and re-establish a relationship with her children. On Wednesday, a judge ruled that all of the singer's assets should be turned over to a court-appointed temporary conservator. Her attorney said the aim is to remove the agreement completely before her 40th birthday in December.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want. Coming up, why California is banning gas-powered generators. Or maybe. I guess it's not a done deal yet. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. That was the story you brought in tonight, Riley. With you tonight, it's Ian,
Joa, and Riley.
We're talking about inflation right now. And actually, somebody called in about consolidation and inflation happening throughout the economy right now and in recent months. And coming up soon, I'm sure more of it. It was what his prediction was, and I can't say I disagree with him. And a perfect example, in case you needed another one, of how bad inflation is right now, is not even Dollar Tree can continue offering everything for $1 in their store.
I just want to point this out. I think I pointed it out last night, but the dollar does not buy what it did 100 years ago, or even 50 years, or even 20 years ago.
Nope.
People need to understand that this is happening. Inflation is happening. It is not acceptable. it is more acceptable to have something that holds its value over generation after generation after generation.
And there are options, that you can do, as you mentioned earlier, Riley. Using precious metals or cryptocurrency. That's a way to get your value out of the dollar and put it into something that is both useful and could hold its value. It seems like it's more likely to hold its value over time because you guaranteed the dollar is going to go down in value. And this is a perfect example.
And
of why
because the value is so low, people don't want to work for these low wages that doesn't have a purchasing power when they get their check at the end of the week. And my opinion is, if you're going to go apply for one of these jobs that, everywhere is hiring right now, especially here in New Hampshire, is put a number higher than what they're offering.
They might take it.
Yeah, just say $30 an hour.
Because
just do
they're
it.
so desperate. They're so desperate for workers.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They just want you there, and you do them a service by keeping things flowing faster. And who knows? Maybe I find this is like how far can they find all the disobedient people? And the disobedient people are just not going to work for these wages. Obedient ones are.
Yep.
Dollar Tree says, according to the Wall Street Journal, it will be selling products at $1.25 to $1.50 or other prices slightly above $1 in some of its stores, expanding current tests selling items at higher price points as supply chain snarls. And I got a story about that too. There's over 500,000 shipping containers still waiting to be processed off the California coastline.
Holy cow, 500,000?
Huge numbers, and that's going to affect the products on, or rather off, the shelves at your local grocery stores and department stores and wherever else.
Wow.
Tight labor market and inflation, of course, are pushing costs higher. The discounters experimented with selling items for $3 and $5 since 2019 in a shelf section labeled Dollar Tree Plus. Those tests continue in a few hundred of its roughly 7,900 Dollar Tree stores. The addition of more above $1 items is a response to rising costs and positive consumer feedback on tests so far. According to the chief executive of Dollar Tree, Michael Witynski, with the above $1 price point, the company can now offer new products such as more frozen meat or seasonal items, which could ensure shoppers spend more per trip. He says, we recognize the need to make adjustments in the current economic environment. The pressure on all of us are seeing on wages, freight, and our suppliers and cost increases. It's got to be tough to run one of these stores anytime because you're dealing with such,
Now they're adding a plus, Dollar Tree Plus.
Yeah.
It should be an asterisk, and then it's small letters below it, inflation.
Yeah. You're already talking about a store where they got to be paying bottom of the barrel rates.
Oh,
right?
sure,
Like if you're working at a Dollar Tree, you're probably making less than most other jobs in the area because there's just not. I understand they're selling items. I'm sure they're making a keystone on, or they're doubling their money in a lot of cases. But it's getting harder and harder for them to do, and it's not like they can just easily take a very, very low kind of margin business model and then double their employees' wages.
No way. Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to get harder and harder for them to find people, so they have to raise prices. And, of course, people are going to support it because they understand. They're going to keep shopping there because it's still going to be cheaper than everywhere else. But it's a sign of the times.
It really is, and it's definitely going to get worse before it gets better. If it gets better.
Yeah. There's not much. There's more to the story, but there's really no reason to share any of the details. If you want to read the whole thing, I'll post it over on our social media at social.freetalklive.com.
I'm not sure about the Dollar Tree, but Dollar General, I know they're independently owned, and so I would support it based on a principle right now. We don't need a bunch of these places open if you can't fill the jobs there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's let a couple of them shut down, but let's be picky about it. Let's encourage the things that we want to see in our society, in our community. And I would suggest instead of going to those places, it's all junk food. Go to your farmers market, support your local farms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you just want a cheap thing that you're just going to get rid of or whatever, and you don't need to spend a lot of money on it. And there's a reason that these stores exist.
Yeah.
Maybe some people are doing their grocery shopping at Dollar Tree. And that is a bad plan.
Yeah.
I know, it really is a bad plan.
For sure. For sure. But, if I want a bag of cinnamon candy or something like that, jump into the Dollar Tree, go into the movies or something.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I would go to those places.
Right.
It's right next to the movie theater.
Exactly.
Stuff my my sweatshirt up.
Although, are people going to the movies anymore? When's the last time you went to the movie theater?
I don't wear masks, sorry.
No, they're not requiring it anymore.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Okay, well, still not going to go.
Yeah. Actually,
I'm not going to support Hollywood.
We did go recently. Arya and I, we went to see Free Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Which was pretty entertaining.
I've heard a lot of good things about that movie from a friend of mine.
Yeah, I summed it up as like the Truman Show for the Z generation, basically.
Or, it's like when AI looks back at it, and I'm trying to spoil anything about Free Guy. They're like, yeah, that's where we came from, video games.
And when AI looks back.
Yeah. Spoiler.
All right, the number 603-283-6160. Let's talk about California. Riley, you brought this story in from the Foundation for Economic Education.
It's one of my favorite sites when it comes to economic stuff.
And then on the way, we'll get a little bit of good news from California from you, Joe, because it's not all bad news coming out of California, although mostly it is, because it's like one of the least free places in the United States. But the headline from FEE is Why California's Move to Ban Gas-Powered Generators and Lawn Equipment Could Leave Californians in the Dark. California legislators have not only cut ties with reality, failing to see that they're heading for even more blackouts, they also want to cut their citizens' last lifeline to reliable power when the blackouts inevitably occur. Now, if you've been listening to this show for the last few years at least, you've heard us covering these California blackouts and the reasons why they're happening. It's like it's a mystery. Why can't California's power companies keep the power on?
Well, for one, I guess a lot of them are more centrally controlled. Number two, water is an issue, and maybe some of them use water dams to power their generators. And the other thing is too, government has been interfering with the power companies so much.
Yes.
Well, that would be the most accurate statement, Riley. And your first two, good speculation, but not actually the supposed reason. In California, because of your third reason, government involvement, the power companies are, of course, very centralized, very, centrally controlled. They can't change anything about their business model without asking the government first. And so what's happened there, as I recall from discussing this within the last few years, is because of all this central control, the power company wanted to raise its rates, and the California government didn't want them to. And one of the reasons they wanted to raise their rates was because they needed the money to perform maintenance tasks on, like, the power lines. And one of the maintenance tasks is doing things like clearing brush.
Which doesn't happen very much, I'm imagining, in California.
Well, it would if they could pay for it, and apparently they can't. Even though they're, they make all this money or whatever, they can't afford to pay. They claim, right? They can't afford to pay for the continuing maintenance that's necessary on the areas around these power lines. So if you don't clear the brush and the detritus and the trees and the dead, whatever away from the power lines, well, guess what?
Fires are going to happen.
Fire hazard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that
so,
stuff is really dry, and it's going to burn hot, and it's going to burn fast.
And then neighborhoods burn down that are nearby, and then you get serious, problems and threats to life and limb and so on.
That's certainly a factor. What I was watching with Reason TV, I guess it was a year ago, and they did another video 3 months ago about it, is that there's too many mandates that forces communities into certain percentages of using alternatives like wind and solar. And that's what's forcing it to be expensive.
Let's get into it, because there's a lot of factors here, and now they want to ban gas-powered generators right when you need them. It's Free Talk Live.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that, and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this hospital.
No, I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait a minute.
Forget it. Whoa.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Is Free Talk Live, and of course you can bring up what you want. Number here is 603-283-6160. If you're out in California still, you poor bastard. You can call in and tell us about what's happening, because we're about to get into the story from the Foundation for Economic Education about a potential ban on gas-operated generators and apparently lawn equipment, because they're crazy. We'll talk about it here. But with you tonight, it's Ian,
Joa,
and Riley.
And, of course, you can bring up anything you want. The number is 603-283-6160. Also, we've told you about Intercoin. It can help any business and organization launch your own currency or raise money using your own token. And now Intercoin.org has launched worldwide. So if there's a token that you want to launch or an app that you want to build for your community, then go to Intercoin.org, enter your email, and the team will get in touch and learn about your needs. And while you're there, you can also get some Intercoin investor tokens for yourself. Head over to intercoin.org. So the story here, Riley, you brought it in from FEE, the Foundation for Economic Education, FEE.org, writing about the situation in California where they're literally having blackouts regularly. Because what happened like a year or two ago was the power company said, hey, look, the government won't let us raise the rates. We need to raise the rates so we can start taking better care of the power lines. For whatever reason, they claim they weren't able to with the current amount of money they had coming in. And whether they're telling the truth or not, who knows? Who knows where the truth tellers are, if there are any in these situations? But
who knows?
But the blackouts were happening because they're having these fires, and so if there's a situation, they have to turn off the power in order to avoid, hopefully, having a fire in that area, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And so, they're turning off power regularly to various different areas in California.
That's scary that they can just decide, oh, we have to turn the power off.
Yeah.
It's like
some people died as a result of that because,
Right.
if you're on life support,
right,
and your life support machines aren't sitting on a hefty battery backup, and your power goes down for a day,
yep,
you're dead.
Yeah.
At that point. So now they're trying to give people notice of when that's going to happen, and okay, well, you better prepare for this or whatever.
But good luck using your generator.
The rest of us don't have to live in that situation because it's not California. So if you're
Right.
in Nevada or Utah or whatever, they're not doing that in those states. That didn't happen in St. George, did
No,
it?
it did not happen
Right.
in St. George. I mean, we have some really crazy fire seasons at times, but I think Utah's a little better at clearing the land and managing it a little better.
So this is a story again, fee.org. Excuse me, says your landscaper. The mower's out of juice. Mind if I plug it in? You look from the immobile machine to your half-cut lawn. Outlet's over there, you tell them, but let's knock $20 off your fee. What are we up to now, 25 cents a kilowatt hour? Welcome to the future. Welcome to California. The state, committed to net zero emissions by 2045, is moving to ban sales of gas-powered landscaping equipment as early as 2024. This is not the first attempt. Politicians tried and failed to do the same thing in 2003. And since then, more than half of homeowners in the state have swapped out their consumer-grade equipment for, quote, zero-emission equipment, unquote.
Wow.
Yes,
Which
that's
means
the big problem here.
battery-powered weed whackers, leaf blowers, hedge clippers, chainsaws, and even lawnmowers. Now, let me tell you, I've actually got some of these things.
Yeah.
We got a battery-operated lawnmower a few years ago here on the property. The old gas-powered one had died, and, I'm like, I hate lawnmowers. They're always breaking down. There's always some sort of issue. I hate lawns, generally.
Yeah.
And, yeah, the electric one is more expensive, but I was willing to give it a shot. I wanted to see how the technology was, give it a try, and it's nice and quiet. It's a neat little experience.
Doesn't putter, doesn't leave exhaust.
It doesn't smell horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't have those horrible problems that the gas-powered equipment does. Now, it doesn't have the same staying power.
Right.
So if you've got an even moderately sized yard, there's a good chance the battery that it comes with
not enough.
isn't going to cut it.
Right.
It's not going to make it all the way through.
So I just want to make a point real quick. I'm not opposed to having clean environments. I don't think anyone in their right mind is.
Sure.
That being said, I do not think the government has a right to mandate that people use solar power or electric cars or anything like this. I think it should be bottom up, not top down.
Yeah, make it interesting, make it worth it, make it attractive on its own volition. It attracted me. I didn't, I'm not some sort of crazy granola crunching environmentalist hippie or anything like that.
You don't need the other stuff.
I'm in the market. I was in the market for a new lawnmower, and I looked at the options like, all right, let's try this.
Now, if you're a granola eating hippie and you are in favor of the environment, there's no problem with that, as long as you're not using the government to enforce your environmentalism on me.
Let the market decide these things. And that's the thing. If these are really good products, then the market will show the way.
Like the market has decided that like the gas containers with the new nozzle, government-approved nozzles. Thanks a lot, Ralph Nader.
Oh, I hate those things.
Yeah. Like
was he involved in that?
Yeah, he was the main component or
God.
spokesperson for it. But it's so ridiculous. If anyone, obviously, there's a lot of people out there listening that have used gas cans without it.
Those things have got to be worth money. Like a gas can from the 80s or something like that?
Well, you can buy the nozzles like on Amazon and other places.
Okay,
yeah, but I don't think you can find them really in stores unless like that state is
because they're not allowed to sell them, right?
I guess, and I think they might be labeled under a different name or something like that. Like, but
those things drive me nuts.
Yeah,
if
they
I come
always
across
break.
one of those things.
They spill.
Yeah.
Like this is exactly the things that they were trying to avoid.
Because they're so complicated.
Yeah, and like you don't want pressure of gas. It's like all these. The government just like overlooked all the safety hazards and created new hazards.
New problems.
Yeah. And maybe that's why they're trying to ban it, because people are fiddling with those mechanisms and then burning a little bit of brush and it ends up causing a lot more problems.
So they say many make the switch to the, again, battery-operated lawn equipment because although they're lower powered and less reliable, they say, referring to the batteries dying, battery-powered equipment is less noisy, and that's what prompted Mayor Stuart Welch of Mountain Brook, Alabama, to begin switching his town's tools over to electric. The bellow of leaf blowers disturbed his tennis game with a friend who, as chance would have it, had previously complained about the town's noisy equipment. The city then spent $18,000 over the last year outfitting its public works crew with electric trimmers, blowers, and more.
Who is the city?
The city is a criminal enterprise of strangers that rules by the threat of violence.
Oh.
A gang, usually wearing similar colors.
They have a logo, like a gang sign.
And shiny badges?
Shiny badges.
The city has spent $18,000, as I said. According to Black & Decker, sales of the company's electric yard equipment jumped 75% between 2015 and 2020. But although a lot of people are making the switch of their own accord, they're not doing it fast enough, according to California's Legislative Assembly. And by the way, again, market demand is spurred on by a variety of different factors.
Oh, sure.
Gas prices start going up.
Yeah.
That's going to be, and they are going up, that's going to be another factor that's going to make somebody think when it's time to replace that lawnmower. It's like,
do I really want to buy another gas-powered mower, or do I want something that's battery-powered?
Right, and that's the other thing is like, every time you want to go, mow the lawn, it's like, oh, crap, the can's empty. Now you got to make an extra trip to the gas station and then fill up the can and then go back home and then fill the thing up and then it won't start. And then you got to pull the thing 100 times and prime the... it's just such a hassle.
It would be like a miracle if they just released a bunch of people from jail that knew how to cultivate something that had alternatives to fuel. Oh, and that would
weed-powered, weed fuel.
Oh, I didn't think about weed. I did not think about weed.
What were you thinking of?
No, it was
hemp?
weed. It was weed.
Yeah, you think of hemp, right?
Oh yeah, hemp. Hemp is actually really great.
Yeah, it's an amazing product. There's no doubt about it. And actually, isn't hemp basically legal for products now in the United States?
Yeah.
You
can buy it. Vermont is legal for hemp growing.
The biggest holdouts are those who do landscaping for a living, and for good reason. The author here at FEE says he searched Husqvarna's website high and low for battery runtime for its 550 IBTX, which one landscaper reviewed as the best electric blower on the market. For $469? Not bad, I thought. After lots of searching about the battery, I gave up and contacted support. Turns out it doesn't come with one.
Oh, wow.
The lowest price option will cost landscapers an extra $300 and last between 30 and 60 minutes.
Yikes.
The one the associate recommended, though, cost $969, more than double the cost of the blower itself, and it lasts, quote, up to 3.5 hours if you run it in normal mode, which is half the power of their gas blower, for $459.
I'm sure that those batteries have a life to them because you're pulling a lot of electricity to run it.
Yeah. So how many charges do you get out of it?
Right.
How long, if you're out there every day doing landscaping, is it gonna die on you after a year? That's another important
Maybe they
question.
need gas-powered generators on site to charge them.
What does it cost per day? To operate one of these things. The number here is 603-283-6160, because it's one thing if you just mow your lawn every couple weeks, then you're only using the device, every now and then. If you're a professional who's out every day on people's lawns,
it's going to be costly.
Yeah, we'll talk about what they're planning on doing here in California, possibly banning this gas-powered equipment. Coming up.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Congress has passed a stopgap spending bill to avert a government shutdown. It gives President Biden enough time to sign it into law before funding for the government lapses at midnight on Thursday. FSN's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The bill will keep the government open until December the 3rd, when Congress must adopt another short-term fix or negotiate a broader deal to fund agencies through the 2022 fiscal year. The legislation will also provide billions of dollars to help resettle Afghan refugees and to provide aid for communities recovering from major natural disasters like Hurricane Ida. Now, Democrats will focus on trying to salvage 2 crucial pieces of President Joe Biden's domestic agenda, which are at risk because of divisions within his own party. The vote on a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill has yet to be called, because progressive Democrats are threatening to bring it down unless Congress first acts on a much larger social policy package. Centrists in the party have resisted the bigger plan.
U.S. stocks fell again on Thursday to end a tough month on Wall Street. Inflation concerns and the prospect of action from the Federal Reserve have weighed on sentiment in recent days. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Yields have risen in recent days, sparked by belief that the Federal Reserve will soon start tapering its asset purchases and on inflation jitters. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said this week that he expects pricing pressures to continue into next year as supply chain bottlenecks persist. Bed Bath & Beyond fell more than 22% on Thursday after announcing that supply chain holdups and inflation impacted the company in the second quarter. The Dow closed down 1.6% on the day. The S&P 500 fell 1.2%, marking its worst month of trading since March 2020, and the Nasdaq dipped 0.4%.
U.S. senators have questioned a high-ranking Facebook executive at a hearing about how the social media giant plans to protect young users across its platforms. The hearings came about as a result of leaked internal data showing, among other things, the company's research on targeting children to use their products. Here's Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts.
It's pretty obvious to every mother and father in our country, because all recent scientific studies by child development experts found that not getting enough likes on social media significantly reduces adolescents' feelings of self-worth.
Facebook's global head of safety pointed out that children under 13 aren't allowed to use their products and disputed the idea that Instagram was harmful to teenagers, citing internal research. A second Senate hearing is planned for Tuesday. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at an announcement the head of Rolls-Royce called the most significant day in the company's history. The iconic British car manufacturer is now testing its first fully electric model. The car, called Spectre, what else, will be the first super luxury product of its type. Rolls-Royce CEO Thorsten Müller-Ottfosch.
I would say after this company was founded in 1904, it went from success to success. But today is a very important, remarkable day because the brand goes electric. And we are announcing the first electric Rolls-Royce in history. And we name this car Rolls-Royce Spectre. and the car will be in clients' hands in the fourth quarter 2023. So testing begins shortly, and I think it's also important to understand that the brand is fully committed to our long-term goals, and by 2030 the brand is fully electrified.
The timing is important given that the sale of new petrol and diesel-fuelled cars will be banned in Britain starting in the year 2035. Rolls-Royce says it will stop making its famous V12 cars by the year 2030, and the all-electric Spectre will undergo 1.5 million miles of road testing before it's made available to consumers. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The U.S. Congress passes a stopgap spending bill to avert a government shutdown. U.S. stocks fall again, bringing an end to a tough month on Wall Street. And U.S. senators grill a high-ranking Facebook executive at a hearing about how the social media giant plans to protect children across its platforms, which include the popular photo-sharing site Instagram. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
Several weeks after the car accident that resulted in the death of his longtime friend Matthew Abrams, local man Keith Bisbee told Onion reporters today that he isn't sure how much longer he should continue using the photo of his deceased friend as his profile picture on Facebook.
People can't really expect me to keep this up forever, right?
Bisbee told reporters he felt like he had done more than his part to preserve the young man's memory. Bisbee added, however, that he had no idea when to go about changing his profile picture.
I'm pretty sure nobody would judge me if I went ahead and changed the photo right now. Matt wouldn't expect me to still have a picture of him up. I mean, I wouldn't expect that of him. You know, I should just do it. Maybe I can go online later tonight when nobody's on. But his girlfriend gets home late from work. I don't really want to seem disrespectful. Maybe I could do it tomorrow morning, or...
At this time, Bisbee has reluctantly changed his profile picture to an image of a gay rights equal sign and is, quote, just waiting to see what happens next.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program. Phones are open. If you want to join us here, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Joa,
and Riley.
We're talking about the situation out in California, which, of course, gets crazier and crazier by the day. Now they're talking about banning all gas-powered lawn equipment and also generators because environment or something.
Yeah.
They want to do a 2045 deadline for a total net zero emissions. And in order to have net zero emissions, you can't have gas-operated anything.
Right.
So let's talk about these batteries they're using. I'm imagining they're lithium-ion batteries right now.
Or something.
How are these batteries made? Are they recyclable? Can we continue using lithium-ion batteries without damaging the earth?
Yes, we can. And Elon Musk said that we were going to have to shake the hands with warlords in what's the not the combo? What is it?
In Africa?
Yeah, in Africa.
Congo.
Either going to have to shake hands with warlords or conquer them and then take
their resources.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, making these batteries is expensive, and you can tell because the batteries themselves are very expensive. Now, look, necessity being the mother of invention, there's a good chance, and especially if marketplaces are demanding better battery technology, they're going to get it.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna find ways. I think we were reading a story a year ago or something about how somebody discovered you could make power out of common beach sand. Like that, there's a way to turn that into a battery.
Oh, interesting.
And like it would be a very effective battery or something. So there's a lot of interesting developments that are out there that are on the either near or far horizon as far as battery power is concerned. So I personally I'm not really worried about it. And that's the thing is like I don't freak out about what's going to happen to the environment because I think that nature is way bigger than man.
I think they're going to find more efficient ways of dealing with lithium ion, especially with the carbon tubing technology coming out.
What's that? Carbon tubing?
Carbon tubes are molecular structure carbon arrays that they can form them into tubes so they can run say electricity through them, almost like an insulator for very, very small parts. So robots are going to get a lot smaller, surgeries and all kinds of other things.
I mean, they've got robots that are micro, they're in your bloodstream, nanotechnology, right?
Yeah, and they'll be essentially, those bots would be building carbon nano structures in your body to protect you, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the cusp of some pretty crazy technological advancements, and what we don't need is the government mandating any one particular direction, and that's where the real problem comes in, because who are these bureaucrats and politicians to be able to pick a winner? That's
exactly.
That's essentially what they're doing here.
And that's the thing, is people need to realize that these politicians pick the winners and the losers in the market.
Yeah, especially like I was going to bring up this article about the cannabis the people that have been prosecuted and thrown in jail for the last 15 years, they're finally getting a chance.
In California.
Yeah. So they already have released 66,000 people, but they're about to release another 58,000.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and these might be cultivating charges, and guess what? You're going to have a flood of cultivators out there.
And are they going to nullify their records as well? Let's get into it here in a bit, but we just want to continue here on the Foundation for Economic Education on this situation where people are looking at a total ban for these various different gas-powered equipment. Again, the state of California is looking to go to a net zero emissions by 2045. And according to the story here, they're moving to ban sales. So they haven't yet done it, but they're trying to ban gas-powered landscaping equipment as soon as 2024.
They're also really strong, California, that is, trying to ban or reduce the use of coal, electricity, or other combusting forms of generating electricity, like power plants and that sort of thing. So that's that's a big reason why the blackouts are occurring. Reason TV was covering this. I think I mentioned it earlier, but that's really where it's happening, is that it was over-mandated technology that they're forcing the community to just go along with, and that power plant shut down, but you're gonna have to reduce your usage, as they sit in their ivory towers with
they got plenty of power.
Oh yeah, they've got plenty of power. They've got their big screens.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Some landscapers make the electric technology work, and we're talking about electric versus gas landscaping products, and not just those whose equipment is paid for by taxpayers, like in Mountain Brook. Chris Regis is the owner of Florida-based lawn care company Suntech. He's able to actually charge customers up to 10 to 20% more if he provides them with all-electric lawn care. Because remember, we're talking about how much more expensive buying batteries is for
so
the
they're
electric
going to subsidize this, you're saying?
And he says those are people who are willing to pay extra. They don't care. They just say, I don't want the noise. And these are much quieter equipment. So,
fair enough, yeah.
So they're willing to pay the extra for it. And he says, this is all power to him. That's how free markets work. Given the numbers above, though, it would take a lot of lawns to make up the initial investment with only a 10 or 20% upcharge, but Regis's investment is far greater. He's outfitted the company's vans with solar panels for recharging batteries on the go. Each van cost him about $100,000.
Wow.
Reflecting on how much longer the same work now takes him, Jimmy Lane of Mountain Brook's crew asked, are we looking at dollars and cents? That's an even more pertinent question in California, where energy prices are the highest in the continental United States. It's 23.11 cents per kilowatt hour to get power in California as of June of this year. Gas is more expensive there too, in large part because of their penalizing policies, but researchers predict electricity prices can only rise in the Golden State thanks to a host of factors. Prices are high in part because the size of the state increases transmission costs, as do wildfires on mismanaged public lands that have knocked out critical infrastructure requiring replacement. But the biggest contributor to the high prices in this is the state's push to adopt wind and solar, which require big upfront investments, but nonetheless necessitate a reliable backup for when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. The problem came to the fore in 2020 for 2 days, California's three big energy companies instituted rolling blackouts across the state where the grid could not meet demand. It was a self-inflicted wound. Given the state's environmental restrictions, many coal-fired power plants are being decommissioned, and thanks to irrational fears, they're not being replaced with clean, reliable nuclear energy either.
It's as if they don't want people to live there. And these are going to be more of the reasons why people don't want to live there.
Yeah.
So
how many days per month are you going to deal with having no power before you're like, get out, let's get out of here?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nice looking women here, but let's go. You know?
I wouldn't deal with it, that's for sure. I'd be gone.
I mean, you don't even know if they're women now.
That's a good point. So, again, all these restrictions are forcing taxpayers to subsidize massive investments in, quote, renewables. And power companies make up much of the state's inevitable shortfalls by buying energy from more reliable fossil fuel plants in neighboring states. Unfortunately for Californians, in August of 2020, when the sunset and solar farms went offline, these companies realized they'd miscalculated how big the shortfall would be. Western states were in a grip of a heat wave, and as Californians reached for their AC dials, they lost power altogether.
That's really bad.
Because if it's hot in California, it's hot in Nevada.
Yep.
And the Nevadans are going to use their power first.
Oh, sure.
And if they have anything extra, sure, they'll sell it to California for 10 times or 5 times as much or whatever. And so guess what? Your power bill in California is going to go up, 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 up.
Yeah.
Losing power is no minor inconvenience, particularly when you live in what's naturally a desert, and especially when it's more than 100 degrees outside. It's not just that people can't charge their Teslas or their mowers. One study in 2020 concluded that more than 5,500 Americans lose their lives due to extreme heat annually. Climate-related deaths are a key indicator of low climate resilience, the ability of a locale to deal with extreme temperatures and weather. And of course, climate resilience is directly dependent on plentiful, affordable, reliable energy. But increasingly, that's what California is doing away with in favor of the expensive, unreliable energy. Unsurprisingly, the poor suffer the most. Research done in 2020 shows that many in Los Angeles can't afford air conditioners. And many who have them can't afford to run them because electricity prices are now so high.
That's a sure sign of inflation right there.
Yep, it is.
Absolutely. There's more coming up here, and government manipulation in the marketplace. And they're like they said, they're hurting the poor people the most, and that means you're going to have more poor people literally dying of heat exhaustion. There's more coming up.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Phones are open as always here. If you're stuck for whatever reason living in California, a lot of people have been leaving, especially recently, with the insanity of the COVID crackdowns going on out there, and that's not going to get any better anytime soon. Good reasons to get out. Another good reason is you may not even be able to have a gas lawnmower soon if the government goons get their way. We'll tell you more about that. It's a story Riley brought in tonight. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Joa.
And Riley.
And Bitcoin.com is the best source to go to learn about cryptocurrency. Riley, you had suggested earlier tonight people need to get out of the dollar. They need to look into alternatives like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And
absolutely.
You can do that over at Bitcoin.com. You got to do the education part first. You don't just jump into this without looking, without learning. Take some time. Click Get Started at the top of the page over at Bitcoin.com. It'll take you to some information, very, very valuable info, including introductory videos that you can watch. I think one of them, the first one, is 3 minutes long. So if all you got is 5 minutes, we got you covered. Go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started, and get started. And then, if you feel like it, watch some more and learn more. You can consume as much as you want about this technology. It's fascinating stuff. But that's a good place to get started. And if you're not brand new, you want to get the latest news headlines, get over to news.bitcoin.com, and they will clue you in as to what's going on in the world of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest mistakes people do getting into it is they get a private message from Elon Musk and here, buy some crypto. And,
send me 1 Bitcoin, I'll send you 2 back.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. That's a stupid idea.
Yeah, be wary about what you do and, get knowledgeable before you invest or start savings.
Well, yeah, being your own bank essentially is what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency allows you to do. It's cut out the middleman with money, but that also means you're relying on yourself to be smart and not get taken advantage of. So you do need to use some caution, buyer beware, and take the time to learn the lay of the land a little bit before you jump in. But Bitcoin.com can help you with that. Now, coming up, we'll get into a little bit of good news, Joa, about California. We're giving some of the bad stuff, but they are going to be letting some people out of prison, maybe nullifying some records. And if you're getting out of prison in California, go ahead and get the hell out.
Yeah,
just leave.
Don't bother.
If they're not forcing you to stay there on probation, plan to move somewhere else.
Or start growing hemp and create alternative fuel for this pending market of gas bannage.
So they're looking at banning gas-operated, various different gas-operated things, including lawn equipment. But that's not all. The story over at fee.org continues, saying that California is doing away with reliable energy.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, a gasoline engine is going to get the job done most of the time and do it relatively low cost compared to some of these newer technologies. Now, that's not to say the newer tech won't become more affordable in the future, but as Riley pointed out, it should not be done at the force of the government. The government should not be mandating these things.
The reason why the government can't be and shouldn't be mandating these things is because they're choosing the winners and losers, and they're forcing you to adopt technology that may not even be ready for prime time.
Yeah, now, as they're finding out here, when they're having huge blackouts because the power grid, they're shutting down coal-fired power plants, and what they're replacing it with ain't cutting the mustard.
It sounds like they're trying to save face for all these investing they did with taxpayer dollars already, with the wind and the solar and all that, because they have to make sure that these things are being used and proven to work. So the only way they can prove it to work is if they ban everything that's competing with it.
Yep.
They say that with startling short-sightedness, the state assembly has sent Gavin Newsom, that's the governor there, a bill that will effectively eliminate a go-to backup gas-powered generators. This bill lumps gas-powered generators in with the offending landscaping equipment and all other small off-road engines, referring to them as SORS, S-O-R-E-S. They love their acronyms. It encourages, quote-unquote, the California Air Resources Board, which is the state's kind of EPA, to adopt a cost-effective and technologically feasible regulations to prohibit engine exhaust and evaporative emissions from new small off-road vehicles and to consider expected availability of zero-emission generators. Such generators do exist, but they are far more expensive, generate far less power, and most need to be recharged after just a few hours.
Wow.
What is the point of that? How are you going to have a battery-operated generator?
Right. I wonder how much more gas they have to spend, if they're even using gas for the vehicle, because this equipment's heavier. Like battery is a lot heavier.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a truck that's going to run more gas to get to these locations. It just doesn't seem feasible. I don't think these cargo vans or these landscaping vans and trailers, they're not really fuel efficient. And more you put into them, heavier it is. It's going to make it worse, right?
Yeah. Effectively, I didn't even know that battery-operated generators work. I mean, I guess it makes sense that they even existed because it seems so pointless. Like, why would you want a battery-operated generator that requires being on the power grid to continue operation? How else are you going to recharge the thing? You can't use gas.
Right.
That's the whole idea behind a generator, is you have something besides the power grid that you can rely on.
Yeah, these are like large battery banks.
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like just plugging into your Tesla vehicle,
You definitely could buy a solar generator, but they are really expensive.
And it's not going to do much because the tech isn't there yet. You're not going to be able to run the whole house off of solar. You'll be able to run a few things, but they say consider the Goal Zero Yeti 3000X. It costs $3,400, and an additional $250 kit allows you to use it as a battery backup for your home. After all that, you can power a single refrigerator for less than 2.5 days.
Wow.
That's it. One refrigerator.
That's not enough for a household.
No. And that, of course, drops if you want to save power a few light bulbs. By contrast, a Duramax XP1 or 10,000 HX can power your whole home, lights, appliances, AC system, continuously running on either gasoline or propane, and it costs just $1,400. When the power went out last August, says Colin Blackwell of El Dorado Hills, California, quote, we went out and bought an $800 generator so we would have the fridge powered up in the garage at least and be able to have food and everything in the house. Mark Galloway of Cameron Park says he lives in a mountain community where losing power is fairly common. He says you should have something, so having the backup generator and things like that, I think it's on you to really take care of that. It's not like it's something you can't plan for. But if AB 1346, this new prohibition on generators, gas generators, is signed into law, going out and buying an $800 generator will no longer be an option. California legislators have not only cut ties with reality, failing to see that they're heading for ever more blackouts, they also want to cut their citizens' last lifeline to reliable power when these blackouts inevitably occur. Yeah, you're not going to be able to go to Home Depot and come home with a battery-operated generator and start running your household appliances.
No, it's really not going to be an effective solution, and California is not even thinking about this. At least the government isn't.
They don't care.
No, they don't. They get to live in their ivory towers.
Yeah, if somebody did bring this up to them, which I'm sure it will be at whatever commission hearing, that here's this particular bill, and maybe it won't pass, but it gives you an idea of the things that happen in California, they'll just shrug their shoulders. Say,
I can see this as a big marketing scheme too, like how industries
to pitch the other generators.
Well, yeah, I can see them a bunch of propane tanks outside, but instead you have a bunch of battery electric charged generators inside.
That's crazy.
That's what we're going to be buying now.
So they say California is committing energy suicide, and if you are staying there, you are asking for punishment at this point. You should start planning to leave. If you're a libertarian, you ought to move to New Hampshire. We'll give you reasons why to do that coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Congress has passed a stopgap spending bill to avert a government shutdown. It gives President Biden enough time to sign it into law before funding for the government lapses at midnight on Thursday. FSN's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The bill will keep the government open until December the 3rd, when Congress must adopt another short-term fix or negotiate a broader deal to fund agencies through the 2022 fiscal year. The legislation will also provide billions of dollars to help resettle Afghan refugees and to provide aid for communities recovering from major natural disasters like Hurricane Ida. Now, Democrats will focus on trying to salvage two crucial pieces of President Joe Biden's domestic agenda, which are at risk because of divisions within his own party. The vote on a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill has yet to be called, because progressive Democrats are threatening to bring it down unless Congress first acts on a much larger social policy package. Centrists in the party have resisted the bigger plan.
U.S. stocks fell again on Thursday to end a tough month on Wall Street. Inflation concerns and the prospect of action from the Federal Reserve have weighed on sentiment in recent days. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Yields have risen in recent days, sparked by belief that the Federal Reserve will soon start tapering its asset purchases and on inflation jitters. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said this week that he expects pricing pressures to continue into next year as supply chain bottlenecks persist. Bed Bath & Beyond fell more than 22% on Thursday after announcing that supply chain holdups and inflation impacted the company in the second quarter. The Dow closed down 1.6% on the day. The S&P 500 fell 1.2%, marking its worst month of trading since March 2020, and the Nasdaq dipped 0.4%.
U.S. senators have questioned a high-ranking Facebook executive at a hearing about how the social media giant plans to protect young users across its platforms. The hearings came about as a result of leaked internal data showing, among other things, the company's research on targeting children to use their products. Here's Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts.
It's pretty obvious to every mother and father in our country, because all recent scientific studies by child development experts found that not getting enough likes on social media significantly reduces adolescents' feelings of self-worth.
Facebook's global head of safety pointed out that children under 13 aren't allowed to use their products and disputed the idea that Instagram was harmful to teenagers, citing internal research. A second Senate hearing is planned for Tuesday. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live. Open phones if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. In the studio, you've got Ian, Joa,
and Riley.
Get your digital tickets now for Liberty in Our Lifetime. It's an event hosted by the Free Private Cities Foundation. And although physical tickets are sold out, you can still get your virtual tickets at lifetimeliberty.com. Now, what is it? It's a new event exploring projects happening right now around the world that are working to achieve a lofty goal of securing freedom in our lifetime. Speakers are from Crypto Valley, Prospera, the Seasteading Institute, and more. They'll be speaking at this October 16th event. That's coming up fast. Get your digital tickets now at lifetimeliberty.com. You can see what people are doing all around the planet to create voluntary societies with a live and let live attitude at lifetimeliberty.com. Joa, give us a little bit of good news. Not that anyone needs any reason to move to California.
Sure.
But nonetheless, we'll balance out the terrible news with something good. What's going on?
I think a lot of people are going to be leaving, and that's because they're getting out of their jails. And
don't stay.
Yeah, no. And I guess L.A. County has already released 66,000 people, and it'll be a total 125,000 when they release the next, I guess, 58,000. Numbers are not correct.
This is just L.A. County. Just LA County.
Just LA County, yeah. So
my God,
prosecutors in Los Angeles will dismiss around 58,000 cannabis convictions in an attempt to reverse the injustice of America's decades-long war on drugs.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty substantial. And a lot of these people were found guilty of just cannabis-related offenses, not like there's no crime.
Right, they
really.
didn't rob a convenience store or something like that.
They just possessed a certain plant that the government said you couldn't have.
Now, they're only doing possession here. They're not letting people out who were selling it. They're not letting people out who were growing it, right?
Well, I think I'm not really sure on that. I'll read more here.
Okay.
This sends the right signal to the community that the nation was wrong in its war on marijuana, and that criminal convictions for marijuana offenses have a disproportionately negative impact on the communities of color, and that this comes from Miss Nzota Tegui. I can't. I'm probably butchered that name, but I guess she was an advocate for this to happen. Yeah, it doesn't specifically say what people were arrested for, but it's not like I don't think they're going to go after him for small distribution or anything like that. These are people that have been in there for 15 years, and that these are not just like small possession. These are a lot substantial things because the small ones, those people were released when they legalized marijuana in 2018. So a lot of those small time offenses are done with. And they're not throwing any more people in jail for it. They might be trumping up charges or something like that, but
they will still put you in jail if you are selling without government permission.
Yes, yeah.
Because this criminal organization calling itself government wants to get its hands in everything.
Yeah, and they want to have a monopoly over who can sell and who can't. So they are still going after people because there are still, even in the states where they've legalized cannabis, it's still illegal to do it without asking for permission.
Yep.
And I don't know about California, but I know that according to the numbers in Massachusetts, and these are obviously estimates because you can't really calculate the black market.
No.
But there's apparently like 50% of customers are still going into the black market.
Yeah, it's not going to die. Well, when the government has its hand in anything, it doesn't matter what it is. It just happens to be cannabis this time. But when they put their hand in it, they got to raise the prices. The shop's got to raise prices.
Because regulations cost money to obey.
Yeah, and this is something that can grow in your backyard or in your basement or whatever. And that people are, they already know the ways to do it, so they're going to continue to do it.
Yeah, I got to say that's one of the reasons why I'm actually happy New Hampshire hasn't legalized cannabis yet, because I don't want to see a tax and regulate. I don't want to see a cannabis tax in New Hampshire, in the so-called live free or die state. We're going to have more freedoms around cannabis, and I hope that they're just decriminalized. Go ahead, Riley.
I just wanted to agree with you, and I said I don't want that to happen either. I want there to be no regulation on cannabis. I want it to be regulated like tomatoes, as Daryl W. Perry used to say.
Which is to say not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be the ideal situation.
Tomatoes are regulated, so. I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, you can grow them in your backyard and consume them. And that brings up a good point.
Yeah, but you can grow them and then take them to the farmer's market and sell them without having to ask government permission here in New Hampshire.
Oh, I see. I mean, that could be a federal issue.
When you say they're regulated, what's the regulation you were thinking
I guess
of?
is like they could just come and shut you down if you don't have a business license.
The feds?
Or like the state.
I don't think you need a license to farm in New Hampshire.
All right.
In New Hampshire's noteworthy because there are not that many licensed regulated businesses.
Well, that's good.
There are some.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too many.
Right.
But compared to California or New York or
sure.
Illinois or, there's a bunch of states. I don't think New Hampshire is the least of all 50 states. I don't know which state holds that particular trophy, but as I understand it, New Hampshire is one of the lowest of all 50 states as far as actual industries. You don't need, one example of this is, from what I understand, I've never looked into it personally, so this is just hearsay, but I've been told you don't need a contractor's license in New Hampshire.
Wow.
So if you want to go out and like build somebody's a house, you don't have to have a license for that.
Right.
Which in a lot of places, whoa, man.
Yeah, it's a big license.
There's a ton of
money-making
government
license.
mandates between you and being able to, put together a shed for somebody.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that there aren't town governments with various different like zoning requirements or stupid building permits and crap like that, but to actually just be a contractor and do work for people, there's no license in New Hampshire.
Good.
And so there are other examples like that. And obviously, we need to get rid of all licenses.
Yeah.
And maybe someday we'll see that happening here.
They're trying to implement cannabis into the state constitution.
In New Hampshire?
In New Hampshire.
Oh,
to make it possessing and use as a constitutional right.
That's coming up this year, right? Somebody filed a constitutional amendment for that.
And this is both sides of the aisle.
Wow.
Because they know that they can't control it. Like, they even bring up examples of Massachusetts, how there's a black market and it's not going to end.
Right.
And this is why they need to just like get rid of all the laws entirely.
That would be amazing. And I remember I was looking through the list of the proposed laws, and I saw that one, and I saw like another one. I think there's actually two competing constitutional amendments that are. I haven't read them yet. But.
I think there one is more defining. I don't really know for sure, but they both sound really good.
Yeah.
Like the intention.
We're gonna find out.
They just, I think it's just these gung-ho constitutionalists out there, no offense, but like I feel like it, you're pushing the imagery of that, the nationalistic look of it versus like the purpose, right? Like, let's not confuse the two. These are rights granted to us, and that, put it in the language, yes, but people are going to do it anyways if they haven't already been doing it.
Well, I mean,
there's
if the
nobody in
point
New
is
Hampshire using it, by the way.
If the point is to it, no, actually, New Hampshire years ago was one of the, I think it was the number one state.
Yeah.
For cannabis, like at least of people who would admit it.
Yeah. Wow.
It was the number one state. I don't know if they still hold that trophy, but at some point they did. I don't oppose what the proposed. I mean, I haven't read the wording yet, but presuming the wording is, it is now constitutionally legal to have and hold and sell and grow cannabis. That would be amazing. Yeah. I'd vote for that in a heartbeat if that were on the ballot.
It's going to be on the ballot. It is.
Well, it has to make it through. Well, at first it has to make it through, just like every constitutional proposal. No, 3/5 of the state house and then the state senate, and that's going to be your tough part. You might be able to.
They're saying that it's going to happen. The way that the numbers that they're looking at right now.
Okay,
it's going through.
Well, so far,
let's do it.
And well, that's actually an interesting approach, because what has happened so far, Joe, on these proposals is the Senate has shut them down. So legalization, for instance, has passed the state house, but it has not passed with a veto-proof margin, and it will not pass the Senate. And the reason why the senators say they won't pass it is because they believe that the governor will not sign it.
Right.
And he has said that he will not sign legalization proposals.
Yep.
And so, therefore, the Senate just shuts it down. That's the excuse that they use. Mm-hmm. Now, I would think that if they support it, they should just go ahead and pass it and put it on the dude's desk and see what he does. But that's been their excuse. But if they go through the constitutional amendment route, it doesn't go to his desk.
Right.
In order to get a constitutional amendment to appear on the ballot, it only goes through the House and the Senate. If they get over 60% voting in both the House and the Senate, it shows up on the ballot that year, and the people then have to vote for it over 2/3. So
remember, Sununu has been pushing a drug that has been literally killing people. We're going to get shut down again. No, the COVID vaccine.
Oh, that one, yeah. Well, they also pushed the drug alcohol in the state-run liquor stores here in New Hampshire. That kills a lot of people.
Exactly. So he's going to sign off on cannabis?
I mean, well, if we pass it constitutionally, he doesn't touch it. It goes beyond him, which is an amazing approach. There's more coming up here.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones are open if you want to join in here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Joa,
and Riley.
Don't forget to check out Joa on his channel on Odyssey.
Yes.
You've got one on that old big tech streaming platform, too. It's called Breaking the Flaw, and you can find it on Odyssey. Just go to our channel first, easiest that way. Just go to video.freetalklive.com. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on Free Talk Live, and then type in Breaking the Flaw in the search button. or search bar, and it'll come right up.
And I've been enjoying the Free Keen stuff because you guys are doing the NH Exit.
Yeah,
videos.
that's right. That I just posted another one today, as a matter of fact. And you're referencing the Free Keen Odyssey channel, which is at video.freekeen.com. That'll take you straight to that channel. And you can subscribe there, and I certainly would appreciate it. I got 20,000 viewers on that old big tech platform and only like 400 on Odyssey. So getting people to make that flip, man, it's a hard thing to do because people have a habit, right? Like
we are creatures of habit at times, and it's really difficult to break out of something we're so used to.
Yeah, and so what needs to happen is things need to be on Odyssey that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
So you have to give people a reason to go and do a new thing and create that new habit. And Ron Paul did it apparently recently. There's like I forget exactly what it was, but some sort of Ron Paul related video they posted on social media that it is only available on his Odyssey channel.
Right.
So you want to see the latest Ron Paul? You got to go to Odyssey.
Some of my videos ended up being taken down from YouTube, but they're up on Odyssey.
Only on Odyssey. That's the thing. And I've been doing now over on the Free Keen channel, I've been only putting up teasers on the old big tech platform. So you cannot watch any more full Free Keen content on that old platform. So, I don't care that there's 20,000 viewers on that channel. It's like, if you're not going to make the flip to Odyssey, you'll watch the first 2 minutes and then you won't see any of the rest of what we got.
Right.
Sorry. So here's you want to talk about good news? Now, that was good news about California letting some people out of jail and nullifying their records. That's good news. But even better news, yesterday in New Hampshire, an executive council meeting with the governor was completely canceled and shut down.
Yay! Congratulations!
Because of the existence of a group of protesters. In fact, hundreds of people, and this is the mainstream media admitting to this, hundreds of people came to an event. It was at St. Anselm's College, and the room in which the event was held, I'm looking at a still frame from the video here from WMUR. I'm seeing probably 100 people in this room. Maybe it held 200. I'm not seeing the whole room, so I'm going to say maybe a couple hundred people.
It does seem like that.
But there were apparently at least 200 more people outside. They wouldn't let them in due to quote-unquote fire code. And so there were a lot of protesters at this particular hearing. What was it about? Well, according to the coverage, they were looking to approve a $27 million handout from the federal government for COVID-19 related spending.
Wow.
Now, this was referenced in another story that I have not shared in full, but New Hampshire Public Radio wrote a story about, headline, Established New Hampshire Libertarian Activists Drive Coronavirus Protests. It was all about how a bunch of libertarians, like Free Staters and such, are behind a lot of the anti-COVID crackdown movements out there.
And they gotta call it they gotta call it a COVID protest to use the fear-mongering of the day.
Yeah, and it's really an interesting story. If we get a chance, we'll talk about it one of these days. But they talked about this $27 million in this story, and apparently a House panel rejected the $27 million because, well, welcome to New Hampshire. There's actually some freedom-loving people in the state house, and the state rep who is in charge of the panel that said no to the $27 million, he's quoted in this article, and I'm trying to just jump to wherever that was. The state rep that was running this particular panel basically said, here he is, Kenneth Whaler, said he didn't believe what state health officials are saying about COVID infections and cited so-called disinformation, that's what NHPR is calling it, about the efficacy of vaccines. The head of the panel that rejected the $27 million in federal money said, quote, "There's no one in government you can trust," unquote.
Of course you can't trust government. This organization called government has not gained anybody's trust. It lies all the time.
But this is a guy who's running a government panel in the state house. So it just gives you an example of what it's like here in New Hampshire. You've got a
this
guy.
This is why I love being in New Hampshire, because you have people in government who believe in freedom.
Now, I don't know what happened between him and that panel rejecting this $27 million and this meeting that was supposed to happen yesterday, because the meeting yesterday was supposedly about accepting or whether or not the state
Right.
should accept. So apparently they somehow went over this guy's head and they went to the state executive council. So for listeners that aren't familiar, in New Hampshire, it's a little different than a lot of states. In a lot of states, there's a governor and a lieutenant governor. We don't have that. New Hampshire has a governor and no lieutenant governor. So it's just the governor, and beneath him, or next to him, if you will, is a 5-person, what they call executive council. The governor, as I understand it, cannot spend more than like $1,500 or something. Like there's some low amount, maybe it's $15,000, whatever it is. In state money terms, it's like nothing.
Right.
He has to get approval on large expenditures or big things from this executive council. If the executive council won't sign off with the majority of the 5-person executive council, the governor can't move on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they were having. They were having a meeting of the executive council yesterday, and here's the report from WMUR, which is like the big television station. It's really like almost the only. I guess there's like a cable channel kind of in New Hampshire. It's the only broadcast.
Let's not mention
channel.
their name.
Well, I'm going to give them credit. They reported on it. Here it
The
is.
Executive Council meeting was held at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics in Manchester, but it fell apart before it could even begin.
Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!
By the way, one of the people shouting "shut it down" and kind of leading that chant is Frank, a.k.a. Footloose, who we've had on this show a number of times. Great activist. I think he's got to be Activist of the Year for COVID-19.
Nice. Good friend of mine.
Countering. Great guy.
He's definitely
ballsy activist. And
sticks his neck out. That's what I'm saying.
Normally, I'm a critic of chanting. I don't like it. I find it typically is like at an event. It's a kind of this mindless thing that people do.
It can be, definitely, for sure.
But here it's strategic. And I got to say, I support it in this instance because they are literally shouting down government bureaucrats in their own meetings. Let me continue here.
Protesters opposed to COVID-19 vaccine mandates forced the cancellation of the meeting after people, including some public health employees, left in fear of their safety.
They're so afraid of their safety.
Fear of freedom.
They actually had state police escort state government bureaucrats off the premises because they were so afraid of what exactly? They claim threatening activists.
Yes.
But if they were actually threatened, the state police would have gone in and arrested them. So I don't believe the claim that anyone was threatened at this particular
I don't
event.
believe it either. These government gangsters like to fear the freedom of people in protest because they might lose their jobs or something might happen if these government bureaucrats lose their jobs. It's just so silly.
Yeah. The Sununu was saying that threatening individuals to get what you want, it's not good government and it's terrible, frankly.
That's exactly
I think
what
it was funny
government
that he
does.
said frankly because
that's what they do. That's what the state does every single day. They threaten people.
It's like it's kind of like with the IRS. It's like people don't want to pay taxes, but they're going to fill out that W-2 form and get it stolen from them so they can keep a job. But then it's like then the IRS comes to you like, hey, you want this check? No. I don't want your check. I want my money back.
Yeah. I never want to see you again.
Yeah, like I don't want to see you. Like this Fed's coming in trying to give us money. No, you can go kick rocks because we don't need you. Stop stealing from us. Like let bygones be bygones and let us be free.
Exactly.
Here's the rest of the report.
I'm right here. You want to take care of this? I'm trying. You want to force me to take stats? I'm right here. Make me take it.
I've never seen.
That's again Footloose yelling at a group of bureaucrats to make him take the vaccine because he's not going to wear a mask.
That's
He's not going to obey. And he runs a group which I love the name of. It's called Absolute Defiance. Here's a little bit more.
That in a council meeting, I would hope to never see that again.
Executive Councilor Cindy Warmington says she expected to see councilors at the meeting, given the topic, federal funding for state vaccination efforts has been a hot button issue. But she says she never expected this.
Saying to people, I know where you live, I think that's intimidating and threatening, and I was very surprised by that.
I know where she lives.
Yeah.
Oh, have you been to her house?
No, but I should, and because she's a public official and I can look her up easily.
Well, this is the problem here. People think that disrupting these government officials' lives is bad. It's not. It's the best thing we can do. They're disrupting our lives. It's time we disrupt their lives. Get out of our
peacefully.
lives, politicians.
I believe
We're
in doing
done.
it peacefully.
Yes.
And yelling at them is peaceful. It's not hurting them.
Oh, yeah,
And drowning them
absolutely.
out from their own meetings, making them cancel every single meeting that they have. By the way, Sununu canceled an appearance he was going to have out here in the Cheshire County area because he was worried about people showing up to it who didn't like him. More coming up tomorrow. We'll see you then. freetalklive.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an